Hey, what is going on, guys? Hope you're having an incredible Sunday afternoon. Today is the AV podcast, the AV experience. Hope you guys are doing well. We're going to have a great time tonight. We've got Rusty Mensch in the house. Of course, we got Jonathan and Ryan. Fellas, what is going on?
I'm going to let Jonathan go. I always go first.
We're fine. Like we're healthy for the first time in a month, probably in our house. So that's nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Where nobody's hacking up a lung or whatnot.
Michael, have you guys recovered?
We are. Well, mostly. Jessica's still coughing a little bit, but unfortunately, I think Claude and Wendy got sick after we left.
Oh.
At least Wendy did, I know. So that stinks.
We've been okay. I don't think anything happened to us. Nothing very exciting. Rusty, what about you?
I've been fortunate this year, and I've managed to dodge all of it. And normally I'm the first one that goes down. So, knock on wood. I might catch it on this live stream.
Catch a virus?
Maybe. Hey, you can get computer viruses.
That'll be the day. Probably not too far off in the future, though.
Probably not.
Well, we've got an incredible show for you tonight. We're going to be talking about several things. Number one, a couple of you guys got some upgrades to your home theaters, and one of them is about to get a huge upgrade in the coming week. We're also going to be talking about this right here. This will be our topic for tonight. We'll hit this in a little bit. Your most unforgettable home theater experience. And so we'll have some fun with that. And we're also going to give you an update on MWAVE expanding. And so we brought Rusty on. He is our event coordinator this year. So we'll talk about that and what's that?
Thankfully.
So it is pretty awesome, man. We're excited for his role and what he's going to bring and his expertise to the show just to make it a better experience for you guys. So we're going to have some fun tonight. And if you got questions about home theater, at the end of the show, we'll answer home theater questions. So drop those in the chat. We'll be starring those throughout the show, and then we'll come back to that later on. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Rusty, introduce yourself. Let's have some fun with that. And just kind of who you are, what you've got going on in your personal home theater. Let's start there, and then we'll dive into your role at MWAVE.
All right. So you may have to ask me shorter questions. Otherwise, I may talk for 30 minutes.
It's all good, man.
Who I am. So Rusty Mensch. I guess I live in Dallas, Texas. I have a wife and two kids, a 13 and 11-year-old, and obviously a home theater enthusiast and pretty much everything technology enthusiast. It's a lot of fun and it takes a lot of time. I went to school to be a mechanical engineer and have been doing that for 20 years. And I hooked up with Youthman a few years ago and went to MWAVE 2022.
Right.
And slept in Ryan's basement and we had a lot of fun, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more, but and then back in 23 and coming again in 24. So
super cool,
Safe
man.
to say it made an impression.
It made a great
better
impression.
Or worse. Probably poor, but
so 22, I wanted the adventure. I was like, man, I hadn't slept on a stranger's couch in at least 20 years. And
you got the hankering.
Yeah, I thought I need some adventure. I need to liven things up a bit. So I signed up to do that. And it was an adventure because we worked. I think I worked harder on that vacation than I've worked on any week before that. We were 6 a.m. till midnight, give or take, every day.
Didn't know what you were getting into.
I had no idea what I was signing up for, but it was fun because it was like, it was brand new. It was, we were all experiencing it together for the first time, and I had a blast, but I went home tired.
I think you learn more and you get to know somebody better when you're working with them than you do
absolutely
just hanging out with them.
So go ahead.
I've had that experience, in service work, church or otherwise, that whenever you get involved behind the scenes and you get those quiet moments and you start to spend time with people.
Mhm.
There's a lot of like downtime and like travel time. And when you're in the car with somebody for a couple hours, you get to know them pretty well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So part of what Rusty's explaining is that in year one, we had our general admission tickets, we had VIP tickets, we had VIP gold tickets, and we had a VIP platinum ticket. And Rusty had purchased a VIP platinum, and part of that was, hey, just come and hang out with us for the whole weekend. You can stay with us at Ryan's home. We'll stay up late doing demos and just hanging out, talking home theater, talking family. When we go to the show, you're going to come with us, and we're going to go early, and we're going to set up, and you're going to get to meet the vendors and just kind of see all the back end stuff of MWAVE. And so that was just a really cool experience. And then last year you came back in 2023 and you were a VIP gold. And so you went to part of that package too, is you got to see several home theaters. And one of those was Ryan's, one of those was Jonathan's, and we'll even talk about later, like what were some of our, most exciting home theater experiences. And I think some of that was from MWAVE. And
For
so we'll talk
certain.
about that in the future. But that's kind of how we met, was a couple years ago. And it's been cool just getting to know Rusty and his heart and his character and just his passion for home theater. And I see, I'm gonna look here. Where you at? Haterade Cowboy, good to see you, brother. I have a link in the description. You guys need to go check out Haterade's interview with Rusty in his home theater. Did an incredible job there. He did a home theater tour of Rusty's setup. And Rusty, you were pretty shy getting on the camera, right? The first time when he was
I would
like,
say
"Hey."
more than shy. Let's say terrified.
Yeah.
Not a camera guy.
Yeah. And that's totally okay, man. But you did a great job. That was a fun video. And Jordan captured everything. I mean, it's more than just the gear. The gear is cool. That's what we get excited about. But really, it's the story. It's the journey. It's the lessons learned that I really love when I do a home theater and a tour. And Jordan did an awesome job capturing that. So
he certainly did. We had a lot of fun that weekend. We had our own little theater crawl over 3 days, and I think we were both pretty exhausted by the end of that one too.
Yeah. So let's see, where do we go from there? So what are you rocking in your theater for those that don't know? Just a real quick synopsis.
So I drank the JTR Kool-Aid.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, yeah, that was a combination of Ryan and Grant and Michael and everybody. And so I had already had some subs, JTR RS2s that I already owned. And then after going to Grant's and hearing what we call the Tower of Power, I was like, man, this is pretty phenomenal. So I came home after MWAVE and ordered a full 11. So I have 3 of the 212 RTs in the front, and then the 110 HTs around, and then 4 of those in the ceiling. So yeah, 9 channels on the base layer. And then, well, I guess we'll get into some of this later, but because of all the tactile experiences, I was ruined, and it wasn't the same later. And I had to build some Dayton UM1822s. So I built those, put those behind the seats, rocking the Valencia. Their names are so long. Tuscany Ultimate Luxury, something. And then for the video, running currently NZ9 with on 150-inch Seymour XD screen with auto masking, the one that was actually on display at MWAVE with the
so you got a Youthman
masking
deal
panels.
there, or at least
I got a Youthman deal.
Good.
And then last year added the MadVR NV Mark II to that. So that's a lot of fun. So then for sources, let's see, running mostly Kaleidoscape and Apple TV primary sources, and then amps, Buckeye amps, and Monolith HTP1 processor. I think I covered most of it. Oh, and some Croson motion actuators. That's a fairly recent addition.
Nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's fun.
Exciting.
So Rusty's got quite the setup, man.
You know what I had before MWAVE 22?
Yeah,
I had a
I want to know.
77-inch. I had a 77-inch TV, OLED, LG OLED G3, and then I had Rebel.
It probably would have been a
F208.
G1.
Maybe it was G1. It was. It was. I bought it in 21, so whatever that would have been. And then just had an LCR Rebel F208 and C208, and then the JTR RS2s. So
Nice.
it the list expanded significantly. Significant, and it's all Ryan's fault because he's my crack dealer. I buy everything I can through him.
Kansas City has a habit of grabbing onto people and then not letting go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just, once you come, you're permanently attached, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to view it. But I mean, you went from Revel, which isn't a bad set of speakers, to JTR. What is your experience in the change? What do you feel? How do you, what are your thoughts?
Man, so from the image, I love the OLED image. I mean, you can't be beat really, but the immersion of that 150-inch screen, and I love the no compromise approach where it's 16:9 and 235, whichever one I want. I don't have to compromise.
Oh yeah.
I just love that wall-to-wall screen experience. Those JTR towers in the front are phenomenal. I mean, that's one of those that you can tell the difference. There's a lot of things. There's some things that you can't tell much of a difference. That one makes an impression.
Is it the 212s?
The 212 RTs, yeah. And 3 identical. So right behind the screen, all lined up.
Nice.
Before I cut.
Yeah.
Not before I cut you off. I am cutting you off. In your Revel series, did you have an LCR or did you have like a towers and like a normal center?
Towers and center, because I was using it with the TV. So it's the horizontal center, but all the drivers are the 8-inch drivers.
So do you
and I still have those in the living room. They just got moved down.
Do you feel that in itself was a pretty significant change going to an actual identical LCR?
I felt that I much prefer the vertical center speaker, like right in the middle. That was a pretty significant change to me. And that was one of those, when I was doing my design, it's like one of the non-negotiables was I really wanted the speakers behind the screen. I wanted the screen wall to wall or as close as I could manage. And I wanted identical LCR. And to me, it's worth it. Yeah.
That was a huge change when I went from a center channel. Now, granted, my center channel was probably 8 feet in the air because it was mounted up above my screen back when I had a 103-inch screen. It was angled down towards my listening area, but it's just really odd to have the sound kind of come from here and then it jumps up quite a bit, it comes back down. And so that was, my brain always knew where the center channel was. So by putting that identical LCR, it's just so seamless. Even when I had the clips, I had the La Scalas, that was a massive upgrade for me. So that's interesting. So super cool. I always recommend that if you have the ability to go with 3 identical speakers vertical, definitely to me is the way to go.
Now, this is something that I always find interesting. So I'm going to ask this question of you. Did your wife notice a difference?
Interesting.
Yeah. So here's how my litmus test for that. Prior to the JTR speakers, and the Revels are fantastic.
They are. They're really good.
But the room's wasn't treated at that time. And I guess there's a few different things, but probably mostly the room treatments and the speakers. And if I turn the volume up more than I don't know, -20, -15, wife and kids would be complaining about it. Something, it's kind of loud, turn it down. Once I moved to the JTRs, they never complain at all. And I usually run, around -10. And then depending on, it just depends on what the movie is, -10 to -5. And it's just because there's less, I don't know, less distortion. They don't complain about the volume. And my kids were pretty sensitive to it too. One in particular. So that's my test. that's how I know they know.
Yeah.
That's a good test. I mean, I'm always just interested to hear, does the significant other approve or not approve, but see a difference in the upgrade? Because if they do, it typically means, at least in my eyes, that you did something right.
You did that right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and going from you know, a TV to a 150-inch screen, she noticed that too, and she approved.
Is that 150 diagonal?
Diagonal 16:9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So not too long ago, Rusty reached out and he said, "Hey, Michael, I'm going to have a little bit of time on my hands. And is there anything that I can help out with MWAVE?" And normally I'm like, we always need help with MWAVE. I mean, every year we have volunteers. There's so much work to do. It's, you know, Ryan and I are trying to put on this trade show, this 3-day event for you guys. And there's just a lot of pieces, a lot of components to it. And usually I would be like, yeah, you know, we need some help. I'm like, hey, let's jump on a call. You know, I don't know what caused me to do that, but let's physically jump on a call. Let's just kind of brainstorm, see where your heart is, what you want to do, where do you think you could help out, and so Rusty, kind of walk us through like what you were thinking at that time, like how you could, you know, like where you would be a good fit for MWAVE.
Yeah. So the way this all happened was it was interesting because it was entirely organic and unplanned. We had just exchanged a few texts about something else. I can't even remember what the original subject was. And I just kind of threw in, by the way, I'm going to have some free time coming up soon. Is there anything you need help with? And I guess what I was thinking at the time was, the first year I went to be a participant and ended up being a big part of like the volunteer and helping. And then the second year I went not so much for shopping for gear and the experience, but really it was more of like a family reunion. It was, you know, it was about the people and visiting people I'd met the prior year, and just, I don't know, maybe a pilgrimage back to KC.
Yeah.
And I spent more time just kind of hanging out with people than I did really on the technical side of things.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, well, this year, you know, I want to go, but, you know, I'm not really planning to make any upgrades, and I had already intended to go.
Right.
But going, well, maybe I can participate and contribute in a bigger way. And I had no idea what you might need help with. And you had said something, and you had a couple suggestions, and I was like, I mean, yeah, I can probably figure that out. And then we got on the call, me, you, and Ryan, and I'm just, you know, you're like, so what do you want to do? I said, I don't know. I just started talking and saying things until eventually, I think it was when Ryan's eyes just kind of lit up, and he was like, hey, you could do that? That would be great.
That would be a huge help. Yeah.
So what I've done, you know, I told you I went to school to be a mechanical engineer, and I did that for really, I only did it for about 8 years, like intensively. And then I quickly moved into program management. So the business I've worked for has been in business for, I've been working there for over 20 years. Yeah. I started when I was still in college and worked there for 20 years. And it's in the defense industry. So we make gun and rocket mounts for our helicopters, serve our armed forces and our allies. But I very quickly moved into the program management and general management, and up to, you know, ultimately president. So most of my career, at least the past 12 years, has been more centered around managing resources and scheduling, and humans and physical resources, and planning, scheduling, coordinating, organizing. I'm just, you know, I'm experienced with that, and it comes naturally. And I think where we felt like there was a little bit of a click was, I said, well, maybe I could help you get more organized, so that you know, take some of that stress off of you, make it run smoother for the two of you, but also the exhibitors and also for the guest. You know, I just want to help make it a great experience for everybody involved.
Yeah. And I love that. And I, you know, during that conversation, one thing that really just excites me, I enjoy being the hype man. Can you imagine that? Like me being the hype man? You know,
Shocker, right?
I love interacting with you guys that come to the show. I love hearing your story, getting to know you. And a lot of times the logistics of MWAVE pulls me away. You know, the very first year, you know, while certain things are going on, maybe the projector comparison, I'm on, you know, making phone calls trying to figure out how do we get food to the venue, you know, and I'm coordinating with the people that are bringing that and getting the tables set up. And so there's just a lot of logistics kind of stuff. And then sometimes you guys would catch me at the front, you'd be registering. I'm like, I'd hang out for a minute, but in my brain, I'm like, man, I got to be over here doing this. And so that's going to free me up a huge amount. But just being able to have somebody that has that experience, I don't have that experience I mean, I did student ministry for 23 years and we did events and I was kind of the main person setting those up and organizing those. So there's definitely some of that, but I mean, to have somebody that has done this professionally for many, many years, I think you're just going to bring a huge level of expertise in that area to MWAVE. And I'm super pumped about that, man.
Me too. I'm excited.
I'm just excited for help.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be cool. Yeah. I mean, what you said, you know, I would love to be able to see and help as much as possible, as to free Michael to be able to be the social, to do his MC thing and to talk to the people and form those relationships and do what you're so great at, Michael. And then Ryan, on the other hand, is to where he's not bogged down in some of the detail logistic things, and he can be more filling in and helping to troubleshoot different exhibitors and solving those problems that come up to the last minute, but handle as much of the other logistics ahead of time and take some of that burden off. So he's freed up to do what he does well.
Yeah. So we're going to have a blast though. Rusty's going to be there kind of leading that charge the day, not the day of, but I guess at the event itself. And again, that'll free us up to be able to just, again, it just allows us to operate in our giftedness and the areas that we're most passionate about. And so we'd love to have you guys join us June 21st through the 23rd. It's happening, guys. Like literally, what are we, 2 months away? Is that right?
About 3.
Oh, I guess we got all of March.
God,
April.
don't terrify me.
Yeah, no.
Ryan's like, are you kidding me, man? But it's going to be here before you know it. We're super pumped. We're continually adding vendors and ideas. Even Ryan was telling me earlier this week, he's like, I got an idea for MWAVE. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, that sounds cool, man. So it's going to be fun. It's built around relationships. And that's one thing that you'll find at the show is that like what we have right here, these 4 guys, there's a friendship. There's a genuine relationship. We text quite often through the week, me and Jonathan and Ryan and Rusty and many others in the chat. That's what we want to make sure that we focus on. The gear is awesome. We love the gear. We love the subwoofers. We love the projectors and the shootouts and all that. And that's great. But we really, really value friendships and relationships. And like Rusty said, when you come one year and then you come the next year and you come the next year, it's like a reunion, man. You get a chance to hang out with the people that you have built relationships with throughout the year. And so that's what we're most excited about. Mark, it is really, really good to see you, brother. I know Mark just had a surgery. He's one of my patrons. And so I'm glad to see you in the chat. Hopefully you are doing well. And man, that's awesome, bro. Good to see you. Well, sweet. That actually segues really well into our discussion tonight. And kind of the topic for tonight is your most unforgettable home theater experience. One thing that we really strive to do at MWAVE is provide experiences, unique experiences, maybe that you've never gotten before. When I polled the audience from MWAVE, I think I did it in 2023. maybe in 2022, but at least in 2023, I asked them, said, how many of you have never experienced somebody else's home theater apart from your own? And it really shocked me. Pretty much half the hands in the room raised and said, it's just mine. It's part of why I'm here. I want to hear some other stuff. And I was blown away with that. And then I took it one step further. I said, how many of you have never experienced Dolby Atmos before? And I was really surprised. Half the audience had never experienced Dolby Atmos. And so I was really pumped about that. But I knew and I realized more than ever that what we were doing with MWAVE was really meeting some needs in people's lives. Like they wanted that, they desired that, they just didn't know where to get that. And Ryan and I and Rusty are working on some things that I think will really help you guys make connections in the future. And so we'll be announcing that hopefully probably within, I don't know how soon, but we'll be announcing that. And definitely by the time MWave's here, we'll be pushing that as well. But part of those experiences we have provided at the show, we've got side-by-side projection comparisons and speaker comparisons and different things, tactile comparisons. But then we also have some home theater experiences. And so let's kind of share that. What are some of our most unforgettable home theater experiences that we've had since we've been in this hobby? Who wants to
Michael,
start?
you start.
Me?
Yes.
Oh man. So, oh golly. So me,
I want to throw him on the bus.
and I know this is going to sound kind of cliche, but I've got a bunch of them because I've experienced so many home theater tours.
You can't cheat.
I'm not. I will not.
Cheater.
I'll name some specifics. So,
what is your most unforgettable experience? It's not plural. It is one.
Oh man.
Yeah. So one of, and that's the thing. It's hard to pick just one. I mean, I have a bunch of them, but one of them that was super memorable is I remember when I flew up to Wisconsin. That was my first home theater tour, like full tour. And we filmed 12 home theaters in 3 days, which is, I don't advise anybody to do. That was insane. Complete exhaustion. But that was probably that was at the beginning of my tour stage. And I experienced Tony's system. So he had a full JTR system, dedicated theater room. And it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced because, I mean, Tony sets the stage, man. Before you even go in his theater room, he takes you into his like little foyer and entryway, and he's got a snack kind of area. So like you feel like you're at the movie theater. It's just a cool experience. He's got 2 little benches that you can sit down like at a table if you want to have some snacks or eat your popcorn before you go in there. And he's got even a TV up here that's got not movie pricing, but snack prices and different things, just like it was if you were to go to a movie theater. Even has a ticket window, and then he prints up tickets for these guests, and then they get photographs. So it was just a cool vibe and a cool experience. And then we go into his theater room, and he had it set up to where he kind of started the volume off kind of just normal. And then at like every demo, he'd get a little bit louder, a little bit louder, a little bit louder. And then every time he would add something else to the mix. And so where I'm going there is, you know, we would start off like in 2-channel and just listen to some music. And then he would add, you know, full surround. And then he would increase the volume a little bit more. And then he'd have the Crosons that he has. He would add that to them. And he was doing all this from his phone. And so he would add that, and then he'd crank it up a little bit more. And then by the end of it, you're doing full on D-box, man. And I was just like, I just never experienced like that full experience of this is awesome, man. Like this is what home theater can be. I had never known that you could have a home theater of that caliber. Mm-hmm. And of course, over the past, I guess that would have been at least 4 years ago, maybe even 5. So over the past 4 or 5 years, I've done, goodness, maybe at least 50, 75, could even be approaching 100 different home theaters that I have visited. And a lot of those I have filmed. And throughout that course, there's just been so many crazy ones. That the $1 Million Star Wars home theater was unlike anything I've ever experienced. I mean, so there's a bunch of them. Jonathan's being completely immersive. That was weird to me and amazing, because no matter where I went in Jonathan's room, it was like I had a good seat. And I'd never experienced that. Normally you kind of get off the sweet spot and it's different. But it was such an enveloping, to this day, I don't think I've heard a more immersive experience than Jonathan's, you know? And I could go on and on. I mean, near field subwoofers, that blew me away. I'm like, what the heck is this madness? And now Jonathan, he was showing us backstage, he's adding more near field tactiles to his seats. Jonathan, show him, buddy. It's time. Look at this.
So I put 2 8-inch subwoofers inside the chair backs of each of my chairs. So that's 12 more in the theater, but they're directly firing into your back, real close together in the middle of the chair, and they really feel very nice. I mean, I'm extremely happy with them. Like it's an upgrade from anything I've had in here before for tactile. Having those inside, they're cosmetically invisible. Right. And before, with my Berkline chairs, I had 10s or 12s actually underneath the chair firing up. And that was good. It was one of 3 different style of tactile transducers at that point. I had near field, the 12-inch firing up, and butt kickers. And each one was nice in combination. But inside the chair back works a lot better than underneath the chair firing up. Like it just does. God, so like it's so good, Ryan. It's so good. God, I think you're gonna. I'm excited to have you guys over and let you experience it.
I hate that we do this to each other. Why do we do this to each other?
I spent 2 months prototyping all kinds of different drivers, all kinds of different mounting mechanisms, facing the drivers different ways, all kinds of stuff, and I finally got it.
Why can't you live further away from me?
I love it.
Every time.
What about you guys? What was an amazing, unforgettable home theater experience that you've had?
Well, I'll go if
go ahead.
Okay. So a big part of the reason I went to MWAVE 1 was because I wanted to go do the home theater tours. I'd seen Michael's tours of Wisconsin, Illinois, and KC, and I'm like, I want that, because I've never been to a like enthusiast theater that had that next level. I've done a lot of like kind of, integrator built with the house kind of theaters. Yeah. So I roll up to Jonathan's, and he's got these, what were those JBL PA speakers or something just in your living room, takes up half your living room.
That was just
JBL,
fun, sure. JBL
truck deal that you got those from.
Yeah, it was that JBL price glitch error. Got them for nothing.
And I don't think there was a display around. I was like, well, this is interesting. I don't know what's going on.
Did you think that was the whole thing? Like that was it?
I was like, okay, well, didn't know what to expect.
I paid for this.
We go downstairs, and then I realized, like, I didn't put 2 and 2 together until that moment. I had seen Jonathan's tour, and I remembered it as the alien speakers, because you've got the red backlight behind them, and the grills are off. And so I was like, oh, I'm at this theater. That's the one with the alien speakers. And that was the first time I connected the dots. And so we sat down, and Jonathan started his kind of demo progression, started with some music and playing some Atmos music. And I was just blown away by Youthman touched on it. It was the enveloping sound. Like you could not localize the sound. It sounded like it was just emanating from the walls in all directions in a very good way. And that was the first thing that just it made an impression, because all this time I'm thinking, well, if you want good surround, you want to be able to localize sound. And so you want maybe a narrower dispersion. And then I hear this, and I'm like, well, that blows that theory out, because it sounded so, it's hard to describe, like you're in a big sound bubble. So anybody that hasn't had the opportunity, like you need to find a way to get into his theater. I know he's sold out for this year, but you know, maybe he'll do another showing. And then we started doing the demos of the just movie demos. And when the tactile, and at that time you had, see if I can get this right, it was the butt kickers, the near field 18s, and then the open boss, or
that's right. Direct attach 12-inch firing up, open air. So open baffle, 12-inch underneath the chairs. That was the brown chairs, right? The Burke lines.
Yeah.
3 different types of tactile.
And the way it was blended together was so expertly blended that you couldn't tell one from the other, and you couldn't really tell that you had something like directly acting on you. It was very natural. So it didn't feel like you had a bunch of gizmos hitting you at different directions. It just felt like you had really outstanding bass and tactile feel from it. And I'm like, man, it added that new dimension. Like, you know, we've, bigger screen and louder speakers, or more of them surrounding you. You keep adding these different levels. You know, you level up from, you know, a left, right, and then you add rear surrounds. And once I experienced that tactile, I'm like, man, I got to find a way to reproduce this. And so it wasn't long after that I went home and ordered 4 Dayton Audio UM1822s and their Parts Express cabinets and built those. So I've got one behind each chair. And then that wasn't enough either. So I went, and it was after I went back the next year, and you'd made a bunch of changes, like to all your seating that you have now. And the near fields were still good, but you were still like in the early stages of dialing in. So
it wasn't as dialed in the second year.
Yeah,
I just finished that week, like the day or two before. I just finished everything. Yep. So it was a rough cut.
Well, didn't you just finish the riser? Wasn't the riser there?
I mean, it was all just, I just finished a few days before. I was
And here we are a year later, it's still unpainted and uncarpeted, it looks like.
It is.
Because one day he says he wants to change the carpet. So why waste carpet and do something
that makes perfect sense.
That's the reason it's not covered yet.
But even then, just having just the butt kickers, I'm like, man, I'm still missing. Like, I had the near field, and I'm like, I'm still missing something. Like, those butt kickers add a lot to it. And I ended up doing the Crosons, just because I have those Valencia chairs, and they're not very butt kicker friendly. So went that route. But I'd say that was one. I mean, I feel like I'm leaving Ryan out because he had a pretty spectacular demo also, but I feel like I've been talking too long. So maybe
I don't think so at all. Jonathan's unfortunately cost us a lot of money.
Yeah, his was just the first one, and it left quite the impression. And I know, well, I'll just say it, Ryan's, what I really enjoyed about yours, it was the video side, because I had never seen. I was still on the fence on whether or not I wanted to go. I'd had a projector before, and it was an Epson 4040, and it was like so. And I didn't, probably have anything calibrated properly or anything either. But I liked the size. I liked the immersiveness of it, having like just the screen wall. It just took up the whole wall. And I went to your house, and you had that glacier white screen that the guys had installed, an hour prior.
I remember that.
Evidently, it's a theme where we get things done like right before MWAVE takes place.
We're not procrastinators at all, are we?
Right.
But I mean, so smooth, and that NZ9 so bright, and with the MadVR and that, God, I still hate you for that, because you did the MadVR demo, and I'm like, wow, it really does make that big of a difference. It is a substantial improvement, but it's a hard one to stomach. That, everybody knows it's expensive, but it's expensive for a reason. And so that was what kind of pushed me to the edge of projection can be really, really good. It's possible. Now you spend a lot of money to do it, okay, you can do projection on a budget, but that was
You
just
can do TVs on a budget
fantastic.
too.
Yeah,
And
you can
anything
do
be
all
done
of it.
on a budget, but get that big image and to use have the AT and have the speakers behind the wall, and it's something else.
Having that, like your setup on the video side was just so perfectly dialed in, which I mean, I would expect from somebody that, you know, works for MadVR, you'd have it pretty well perfected. And I'm like, man, I got to have that too. Like, this is going to be an expensive trip.
See,
it's
people
gonna be
don't
expensive
realize
this year because Ryan's got a Christie in there in place this time. So
That's
yeah,
right.
I'm not going back. I'm done.
He's skipping it.
I think we're doubling the knits. We're going from 150 to probably 300.
My goodness.
Golly.
So
That's amazing.
We'll see what ends up happening. I don't know. It's getting that all just got paid for. So that's all. We can talk about that in a little bit.
Are you gonna? What's your confidence level of being ready to roll in 3 months?
Highly confident.
Great.
Highly confident. It's going to happen. All the vendors want it to happen too. So
yeah, it makes sense.
We'll talk about it after we get through this.
Cool.
We've got some updates. We just actually were working on it today, so we've got some stuff to talk about.
I'd love to hear it.
So my favorite thing, I think there's a lot, but the most unforgettable, it has to be the Black Swans at Atlanta Home Theater. It has to be, because I mean, look at the pathway it's put me on. I mean, look what it's made me do. So that in and of itself has to be it. It is the pinnacle of the zenith of this first part of my journey, and now we're on a different trajectory. So for anybody that doesn't know, Michael and I went to Atlanta Home Theater in like August
last year. Yeah.
And it was a vendor event, right? And they had some of their big customers come out, but it was really, I didn't know what it was going to be, but it was really it wasn't even really a show. It was just kind of hang out,
cool hangout. Yeah.
Get to know people, get to experience stuff. So a lot of the vendors were there, and we got to see some cool stuff and talk to some guys, and it was a good time. But Atlanta Home Theater had partnered with Ascendo, and they had a customer's set of speakers and sub in this room, and this room was awful. It was Alex's old office. It wasn't treated, and they did that because they were theoretically just putting them there temporarily, and it just was not a good space. So I fly down, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'll hear him, but I didn't really think much of it. Are you looking for a picture, Michael? Yeah,
you know I am.
Yeah, I always thought, well, you know, everything's expensive. You know, it's a 50-inch subwoofer. They call them the Black Swans. They're horns. I don't like horns.
Hey,
so
horns
that's
aren't your
probably
thing,
not going to
man.
be good. And I go and sit down, and I don't even remember what the first song was. And with not even a second passes, and I know in my head that was a bad decision to come to Atlanta Home Theater.
Yeah.
It was a bad decision to go, because I had been in the back of my head looking for something to replace the 15As. I mean, I love Martin Logan. I think that for a 2-channel setup, there are, if anything, better than what they are with their electrostatics. But I was looking for something with more volume that could do reference and home theater. So I was looking for something, and the Black Swans ended up, I knew nothing about them, ended up ticking all of those boxes. The compression driver in them is 117 dB sensitive. So the 15-inch can't do that, but the 4-inch beryllium driver in the horn can. And they don't seem like it when you're listening to them, but like my electrostatics, and I think this is a big reason why I like them so much, they're extraordinarily narrow. Like if you look at the dispersion plots for these speakers, they're like a beam, but it is just a perfectly smooth beam that just gets a little bit narrower as it enters the higher frequencies. And it was amazing. So it gave me everything that my Martin Logans did at the higher volumes. So I knew as soon as I heard them for like a second that it was a horrific decision to go on this, because I was kind of up in the air on even going until we got to a few days before, and then I heard Michael was going, and I'm like, I'll go. We'll hang out, because we did the projector stuff, and that was a bad decision too. I mean, look what that did, because I ended up talking to the Christie guys. We hung out and did some stuff with the Griffin, and that was it was just a bad trip. It ended up being way more expensive than just getting me down there. But you can see how poorly treated the room is, and that really didn't matter.
Well, what's funny is I'm watching this video, and when it loops back around, what I noticed was how big your smile was, man.
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
You're just, and I mean, you can see all of us. We're like, oh my goodness! Like,
and that sub was awesome. You had to go. You didn't even remember that it was on, because you couldn't see it moving, and it was shaking everything in the room. Shaking's the wrong word. It was pressurizing everything in the room.
Yeah.
So that was the most memorable, unforgettable experience, because it continues now, and it's something that is going to have an impression and continue to have an impression on me, but everyone else that comes through the MadVR Experience Center from now until whenever something changes. So it's unfortunate, but awesome. So it was good.
Unfortunate on the wallet.
Yeah, unfortunate, but it'll be well worth it in the end.
And a lot of work.
Well worth it in the end.
Awesome,
I think.
Man.
What about chat? Chat, I want to hear what your guys' stuff is. What
about Jonathan? Did he he have a turn?
I'm saying this in the chat because I don't want to forget, and then I'm going to throw it to Jonathan, because Jonathan will have something that'll be either like, I don't even know where Jonathan's going to go. He's seen so many things. I don't know where it's what.
Yeah, I mean, you've been to so many different home theater crawls and events, and you've been to Expo. I mean, you've been like all over the place. So
yeah,
I'm curious to hear too.
I've probably been to 100 different home theater rooms on ABS Forum through, probably 8 or 10 different crawls, which would include, 8 to 10 theaters each, and then just all the Kansas City guys and Iowa guys and Des Moines guys. And I mean, I just made it a business to like go visit a lot of theaters and really loved it. A couple things that would stand out to me, and I like these guys here. I was in home theater stuff since high school. I mean, got my first home theater in a box set up in high school. Got 215 Infinity HPS 1000 subwoofers, and like I've told them before in the podcast, there was enough firepower there at our rental house that I could shake the water in the pool with those Infinity HPS. But what really amazed me the very first time was when I heard like 15 hertz bass that was produced with Authority, because my Infinity HPS did not do that. They were probably more like 20, 25 hertz type range. And I went over to a friend of mine's now, 2010, 2011 timeframe. His name was Luke. And he has a very small home theater room, like closet sized almost. But he had 2 HSU VTF 15Hs. And in that small room, those things were a 16 hertz tune on those, I think. He played the Hulk. And like I say, I've been in home theater for 15 years at this point. I'd never heard the Hulk type sound stomping around at 15 hertz, and it makes your pant legs flap, and makes your lungs feel different. And it's like, wow, I didn't even know that's like a thing, like this is amazing. So that really opened up my world of subwoofers. I mean, I've been in car audio, I didn't think I was missing anything, didn't know what I was missing until I experienced that. And I was calling all my buddies on the way home, like it's, 10 or 30, 11 at night on the way home from this visit with my buddy. And I'm calling all my friends like, you've got to experience this. I cannot believe how this bass feels, Yeah.
And it was at this point that Jonathan ceased to have a retirement.
Any rate, that was really, really, really fun. Because it was compliments of a very small room with a very capable subwoofer system, so it could fill the airspace very well. That's one of my most memorable experiences. And that introduced me into like chasing tactile, because I don't have a room that small, right? So I have 8 sealed subs in here. They can't do that same feel in a large airspace. So you kind of present it with that same feel with tactile. You reproduce it that way. The second experience, I'll tell you, like anybody else, you're familiar with clips, or you're familiar with, I had Wharfdale speakers for quite a long time, like almost 15 years, like nice towers, audiophile type stuff. The first time I experienced pro audio in a home theater, this is probably 2012, 2013 timeframe. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Where did this come from? I didn't
Like,
know
you
this
can
was a
do
thing
that?
either.
Yeah.
Like, right, mine can't do this. I have Wharfdales. I've gone through 6 or 8 center channels trying to find a center channel that didn't sound like crap, you know, like everybody does when you have these audiophile speakers, because like they just sound tinny and small and lead filled when you turn it up to reference. I finally had gotten around that mostly by having a center above my screen and below my screen, and 2 center channels made half the load, so it wasn't quite as nasty when it turned it up to reference. But nothing like there's compression happening with the tweeter. It doesn't increasingly get loud. The dynamics are gone when you get up to reference. It's just not. It's not the same as a cinema. Like you still thought the commercial cinema was better. Went over to Sheldon's house. He had some Pro Audio speakers that he'd purchased. And we watched several scenes that I'll remember, like the War of the Worlds scene with the foot that comes out of the ground from the pod and stomps on a car and the glass shatters.
Yeah.
And it was so like the glass shatter was like, oh my, that is loud. You know, like that is like really what glass would shatter, you know, sound like. Impressive. Never felt that, never heard that before. And then we watched the bucket that falls down the well in the Mordor scene in Lord of the Rings and the chains clinking off the well. I watched those scenes a bunch of times. They're like ones where everyone always shows. My little Wharfdales couldn't make that chain sound like that. The Pro Audio stuff made that chain clinking so loud. And you're like, all right, now I understand why the orcs woke up. Like, this is amazing. Where is this stuff all my life too? So then I explored into the world of Pro Audio, you know, because it's a totally different world. So those are my 2 most memorable that really started like, how deep does the rabbit hole go?
Yeah. So one thing I hope that you're hearing with all of our stories is get out of your comfort zone and find people that share the same hobby and go hang out with them.
Or don't. You can save yourself a lot of money.
You know? But the thing is that there are people out there. The hardest part is finding them. Like where they at. I hear this over and over and over. And like I said, we're working on some things to try to help you with that. But I hear from a lot of you guys that, man, I just don't know anybody in my area that I can hear a home theater. I can experience a home theater. And so that's part of why we started doing the home theater experiences at MWAVE, because we know that you guys don't have those opportunities. And so if you're coming to MWAVE, I definitely would recommend like at least take a look at the website. I'll just bring this up real quick. So on the website, right from the homepage, you can click on the VIP home theater experiences. And I think we've got 8 or 9. I think there's 8. So Ryan's is booked. It's totally sold out. Jonathan's is totally sold out. We've still got space at Ivan's. We've got some space almost sold out here with Sheldon's. Another one down here starting to fill up at Ryan's. All of these are completely different, completely unique. Some of them have near field subwoofers. Some of them have the projector you might be considering for your home theater, and it gives you a good opportunity to see that in person. Some of these have those Pro Audio speakers, and so maybe you've never heard that. And so each one of these are absolutely unique. We've got 3 different time slots, so you can do a 9:30 to 11:30 or 9 to 11:30 time slot. You can pick another one if you want to from 12:30 to 3, and then you can pick even a third one if you wanted to from 4 to 6:30. But all the details, so you can click on any one of these. Let's say you're looking at Stephen Dew's, you can click on this more information, and then that's going to give you a complete list, a lot of photos of their setup, what they've got going on, complete equipment list down here. So you may be looking at that going, man, I've always wondered what, Klipsch Heritage speakers sound like. And a lot of those you can buy used. So that may save you a ton of money. And so encourage you to look at that. I think it's just huge, huge value there to be able to hear and experience those home theaters firsthand. But also you're going to meet some really cool dudes and you're going to develop some friendships and relationships through that. I promise you that. So
I will also add that these theaters are curated. It wasn't just like, I mean, I know there's other guys in Kansas City, so if you're not on this list, don't take offense. But these theaters were specifically chosen because I think we kind of consider them the best in Kansas City from our list, from our people that participate in the hobby and so forth.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say from the people that are willing to share.
There you are.
Yeah.
There you are. That's correct.
Yeah.
And so there's not a bad theater on here. Now there's 2 of them that aren't finished yet, but we know their equipment list and we've seen their previous theaters, and we trust that, when they get these things renovated and to their new edition, they're going to be showstoppers.
Top notch. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are not just like everything in here is excellent and worth experiencing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right, Ryan. There was some that perhaps were not interested in doing it this year, and that's their choice.
Yeah.
It would be worthy of having the
100%.
And that's not to discount anybody that's already there. We probably just would have had more, is all that I'm saying. So
yeah.
I think I for some reason decided to sign up for all the unfinished theaters because those seemed the most intriguing to me this year. So I hope
I think a big part of the unfinished ones is the process, right? The journey, because it's not they're probably going to talk about not just what the theater is there, but the journey, because it just finished.
Right.
I mean, it's taking
really
rise to the next level.
So
they should all be done. Like that.
I'm hoping.
Well, but so kind of one of the benefits there too is, it's more than just, like you said, talking about the gear, but it's going to give you an opportunity. If you choose to visit one of these, then you're going to get a chance to ask the question. You're going to ask Jonathan, how did he die? I saw a question earlier, like, how do you dial in, your tactile subwoofers, like your near field subwoofers? Well, there's the man right there. You ask him in person and he'll be glad to share with you. He's got a heart of a teacher, and all these guys that are leading these home theater experiences, they've got hearts of teachers. They love sharing their knowledge. They love sharing. You're not going to go in there and they're like, I ain't telling you my secret sauce. No, they want you to know. They want you to take that information home and better your home theater. Yeah, absolutely.
And if you find a superior method, let us know too, because we're always willing to try new things.
Yeah, 100%. So super cool, man. I like that. So hopefully you guys have had some amazing experiences in the chat. If you haven't, come hang out with us, man. We're going to give you, even if you don't go to any of these home theater experiences, we're going to have some incredible home theater experiences at the show. Just the general admission 3-day ticket will get you access to all 3 days, June 21st, 22nd, and 23rd at the Kansas City Convention Center. All those details are on the website. So, man, we would love to have you come. It's going to be a blast.
Hey, Michael, could I add on to something you were talking about just a minute ago? You're saying it's hard to kind of connect with these people, at first. And I'll say prior to MWAVE, I didn't know any other enthusiast in my area, and I live in Dallas or north of Dallas. So there's lots of people, and I know there's a lot more. Just we're not hiding from each other. We just haven't found each other yet.
Right.
And
you don't know how to connect.
Exactly. And when I went to MWAVE 22, and the first night just happened to meet up with 2 guys, John and Michael. And it's funny that, we all go to Kansas to meet and find out we all live within about an hour of each other.
Right.
And we exchanged numbers and hung out during the event. And then when we got home, and I got to give a lot of credit to John, because he was the guy that made sure that we kept in touch, but to get the momentum going at first, he stayed on top of it. And he started a post, and he connected with another guy that we consider our part of the founding 4, and Eric. He joined us, and he had been looking for somebody too. And so we had our first meetup. It was just the 4 of us. And it was a little like, we have no idea what to do other than our experience was limited to what we had seen at MWAVE. And so we're trying to figure this out and how find our groove. But since then, we continued to meet, and the first few was 4, and then it's 5. And I'm not sure what we're actually up to as far as our group members now, but I know that I had just shy of 20 people at my house in December. And that started with the 3 that met that met at MWAVE. So the people are out there. We just haven't found the way to connect yet. And I think that's what's great about what y'all are doing and what we're doing is connecting people. And this year, especially, we're going to be super intentional about connecting and trying to help you find those people because they're out there and they want to connect. And, you know, the home theater part of it, that's just the part that gets it started. Like it starts the conversation because it's common ground. It gives you something to go on. But once you get started, you'll find that you just start to do life together and share things in life. And that's where it gets to be even more rich. So just want to add that on.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. And that was super cool to see that from just the very first event, you found and made some connections. And I've made that very clear from day one of MWAVE. You know, when you come to MWAVE, the very first year I said, you know, what is, you know, everybody look at your name badge, your lanyard, and what's the biggest thing on there? And it wasn't our logo. It wasn't our sponsors. It was your physical name, because the name matters. You as a person matter. And I encourage people, like, get to know some people this weekend. If you don't get to know anybody, it's your fault, because we're providing everything that you need. You already know every single person at the show is interested in home theater, period. That's a common ground immediately. I'm an extreme introvert. You'd never guess that. But if I am in a room where I don't know the people, I'm probably the last person to speak up, because I don't know what the interests are. And that's always awkward, having conversations and chit chat about stuff, and you try to find common ground. That's the hardest part of a conversation. We've already taken that guesswork out. You've got the intro already. All you got to do is say, man, I got a home theater. Really, dude? I do too. Or I'm working on one, or I want one, or whatever, you know? So you've got that immediate, you know, common bond, I guess. And so, but again, we're going to do some things this year. Like every year, we just get more and more intentional with that. We're going to do some fun activities from day one. The very first night that we're there, we'll meet about 30 minutes each day. We'll do on Friday night, the first 30 minutes of the show, we'll meet in the seminar room. We'll have some fun, make some introductions. We'll do a little fun mixer. And then on Saturday morning and Sunday morning, we'll meet for about 30 minutes. Just keep it short and sweet, but we want to intentionally provide you with some tools and some resources and some ways that you can connect with other home theater enthusiasts. So super, super pumped about that. Yeah, I love this. Michael is the most extroverted introvert to exist. And again, I'm an extrovert when I know there's common ground. Does that make sense? I'll talk your head off. I mean, I'll talk for days. But if I don't know you and I don't know what your interests are, yeah. I'm okay with going to Outback. My wife thinks I'm crazy. I can go to Outback by myself, eat a meal, and, you know, go there, enjoy myself, leave. And I'd rather have people there, but I'm okay being by myself. Doesn't bother me, you know? So
my question for you, Michael, because this is the definition of introvert extrovert that I think is the best. It's, do you get, when you're with a group of people, does that, and say like for 8 hours, do you leave more energized or do you leave drained?
I'm not drained, so I'm more energized.
You're an extrovert. You have to be an extrovert.
But he's an extrovert when it's a common ground. He doesn't do that when it's because normally extroverts, in my opinion, they can
talk to anybody.
No, I mean, yeah, but there doesn't necessarily have to be a common ground. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
that's
we're
what I'm
just
saying. Like a true extrovert, they're the conversation starter. That I'm the conversation starter if I'm already kind of got a leg in and I know that you're interested in my interest.
I think we're just going to have to agree to disagree on this one, Michael.
And I may not. Maybe I'm. I've never taken a true test. Am I introvert or extrovert? I've always. Yeah.
How about
I've
you,
had the
Ryan?
same discussion with him, Rusty. I fully agree. I think he's extroverted, or at least on that spectrum instead of introverted. But
what do you consider yourself, Jonathan?
I am middle of the road. I can talk to people, but I don't. And if with friends, I'm energized by spending time with them. If it's like a party with a bunch of strangers, I want out of there. That's not me.
Yeah. How about you, Ryan?
I'm the same as Jonathan.
Yeah. See, I enjoy people, but after like a period with them, I just want to be alone to recharge because I'm like it drains me. But I enjoy it.
I've got a friend of mine that he's very much like that. If he does a podcast with somebody, he's like, I need just some downtime. And I don't need that. I definitely. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not as introverted as I think I am, but
it's okay.
He's like, there's no way, man. You don't.
There's no way.
Yeah,
I agree. Rusty's right here, Michael.
Okay.
You should take a test.
Thank you.
Maybe I've been lying to myself.
Take a test.
Go take a Facebook test.
Well, think about this. So when I was in student ministry, one of the things that my pastor really wanted me to do was to visit the schools of my students, of my youth. That was always awkward, man.
It is always awkward.
I think that's awkward,
but it doesn't mean extroverts can still think socially awkward.
Okay, maybe that
situations or people they don't know. Sure.
I'm thinking, man, I got to go into a middle school or a high school, and I'm like in my 40s, and make chit chat with my friends that are my youth that I know, but then I got to make friends with or conversation with their friends, and that's where the introvert. I'm like terrified. Like I don't want to be there, man. That's just weird.
I'm glad I got to get that off my chest.
What does he say here? JR says, man, if you were a salesperson, you'd be okay doing cold calls. No. I don't like cold calls. Yeah, I don't like that at all. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what that means.
I think you're an extrovert.
Maybe I am.
It's 3-1.
Bring on the strength. He said, okay. All right. I'd be curious in the chat. Let me know. Do you think I'm an introvert?
Can you do it?
I know what you guys are going to say.
Can you do a poll?
Watch you interact with people.
Poll?
I don't think there's a poll option in StreamYard.
Oh, man.
They just have to say.
Submit that as a feature request.
Oh, he says, Zach says I could take a Myers-Briggs personality test. Yeah.
Watch it be a passive extrovert.
He said that's what he said. He said I'm a passive extrovert. I don't even
what
know
does that even
is.
mean?
I don't know. Derek,
all right, Michael, here's another question for you in this regard.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you're at church early, like 30 minutes early or something, and there's people filtering in, are you going and talking to people, or are you kind of sitting in your chair, like waiting for service to start?
We have a couple years ago, when I stepped out of student ministry, we moved to a new church because I knew it'd be real awkward for the new guy coming in, trying to build relationships with the kids and parents. So we moved to First Baptist in Plant City. It's a pretty big church. So there's a couple thousand people on a Sunday morning versus 400 or 500 people on a Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
So much different experience there. And like this morning, we went to church. We went to, I finished leading small group because I teach a small group Sunday school class. We go into the main sanctuary and I walk right to my seat. I sit down. Now I'll say hi to the friends, people that normally sit next to us, but I don't walk around talking to strangers. I'll say hi to the greeters, when I walk, hey, good morning. Mm-hmm. That's about it. I'm not like bumping elbows with people I don't know.
But I don't even do that.
That's the introvert in me that I see.
He's actively talking to people, and I'm like,
look at it. Ryan's hiding, man.
Avoiding all eye contact.
He's saying he's an introvert, and he's like, yeah, I say hi to the greeters. I say hi to the people I normally sit next to. I'm having conversations. I lead a small group. I do all of this stuff. I'm an introvert. I mean, come on, man.
I think the comments are pretty unanimous, man.
Yeah. All right. So maybe I'm an extrovert. I don't know. But it doesn't matter. I'm a people person. I love people. I value friendships. I value relationships. The longer I'm in this hobby, the stuff is going to come and go. You're going to get new subwoofers. There may be a time in your life or my life that finances change and you have to sell it all, At the end of the day, that stuff doesn't matter. It's what these four fellas represent. It's what you in the chat represent. It's those relationships. That to me is what's awesome. That's timeless. That doesn't matter where we are If we relocate, we can still have those. If we are broke, we can still have those, you know, so that doesn't matter. So I'm all for Mr. Bean. I'm all for relationships, man. And again, that's just a big focus of MWAVE and what we're about, and really what this podcast is about, and what my channel has always been about. I really value the community. That's why you see every single time that I upload a video, I'm in the comments. You know, I don't care if I get to 1 million subscribers one day, I'm still going to be in the comments. Now, I can't answer every question. I can't reply to every comment. So sometimes, you know, you'll leave a comment and I may just heart it, and that just lets you know I read it. But you know, I will always be active with my community because I value friendships and I value relationships. Our Patreon, you know, one thing that I've started doing and I love is we do probably every 2 weeks, we do a Zoom call. And those guys are telling, I'm finding out about them. Derek's in the chat. I saw, who else in there? Oh man, I'm drawing a blank. Mark from earlier, he's in the chat, you know. Ike is in the chat. So these guys are hanging out with us and on Zoom, just getting to know each other, building relationships, having friendships, hearing about even just life, you know, struggles and things that are happening in their personal life. So, but yeah, man.
Hey, Michael, could you talk a little bit more about that? Like when you do your Zoom calls, for the people that have never joined them, like how many people is it? And like, is it for an hour, or do you have like topics? Like how does it all work?
Sure. So typically, I mean, with my group, I try to schedule them the first Tuesday and the third Tuesday of every month. One thing I'm going to do is probably pick an earlier time during the day because I've got a lot of international people that they can't make it. So they're on the other side of the world. So like John, he's from the UK. He's like, hey guys, I got to bail, man. It's 2 a.m. here, you know? So he's up super, super late, and he's coming to MWAVE too. So I'm super excited to meet him in person. But we'll jump on a Zoom call. So typically it's a fraction of my audience. So I have, I think, about 120 patrons. So we may have like 10 guys on there. So it's not like it's an overwhelming amount of people. But Derek, he's in the chat. He's, you know, while he's doing the Zoom, he's taking apart he's got the same speakers Jonathan does. He's got a couple tweeters that aren't working on this one, or a mid-range driver that isn't. And so he's kind of borrowing Peter to pay for Paul, you know, swapping them out till he can get the new ones ordered from JBL, which they put him on back order for a little while. So, but we just hang out. So a lot of times I'll share with them updates on things in, you know, my space, as far as like what's going on with the channel, what brands am I talking to, what new products do I have. So I try to always give them, kind of like with the VIPs with MWAVE, kind of give them the backstage pass. They can ask me anything, and I'm an open book. So if they want to ask about YouTube, or how does this work, or what's my process, so we talk about that. We talk about their upgrades, their home theater builds. Sometimes like this, they just have questions like you guys in the chat. So I will answer questions. I'm not the expert, but I'll share my experience, and the other people in the Zoom call, they're going to share their experience. And so it's just a group effort. And then we've got some guys like Mark. He recently had a major surgery, you know, and so we talk about those types of things, and we just encourage each other. And even Mark shared how he said, guys, I'll be honest with you, man, y'all are like family to me. And I was like, holy cow, that's pretty deep, you know? And so he was grateful that during probably one of the scariest times in his life, like he just had some brothers just to hang out with and build relationships with. And, you know, we're not there in person, but, you know, we're hanging out, building relationships and friendships. So, but yeah, sometimes there's not necessarily, I usually don't have like a topic like we do here. It's more just, let's hang out. Let me give you some updates. Like, you know, I told them about you coming on. So they always get first dibs on everything. They get the inside scoop. Even things that don't come to pass with the channel, they still at least know about it. And then I use them a lot on feedback. You know, I ask them straight, I'm like, look, here's where we're at with MWAVE. What can we do better? You know? And man, I'm taking notes. They're like, man, if you could do this, boom, you know, and we try to implement that. So I really value, they're like my core. So I figured, let me lean into them and let me kind of get and solicit their feedback. So, but yeah, that's really what I do with my Patreon community. They just kind of get backstage access to what's happening.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing. Cause I thought,
Yeah,
for the people that have never joined, you kind of see what you're missing out on.
yeah. So Mike's not an introvert. He's a psychologist. What about that, man? Oh, goodness, man. Yeah, I love this. He says, it's not about the destination. It's about the journey along the way. Man, I'm a big fan of that, and I've always shared that on my channel. Sweet, man. All right. Yeah, so Johan says, I'm a patron just to support. You can't take advantage of sales and can't take part of the Zoom calls because of the time difference. Gotcha. But I'm in support either way. I appreciate that, brother. So I am looking at some alternative times because of that. I'm starting to realize half of my audience is overseas, you know, on my channel. And so I know there's quite a few of you guys on Patreon. So on Patreon, it doesn't tell me like where you're from. So I don't know who or how many are on the other side of the pond, as they say. So I definitely want to be accommodating to that. So look for some new time slots for that. Cool.
Should we do some
yeah, so Scott mentioned here.
Go ahead.
Oh, he was just saying that, you know, last week in our Zoom call, we talked about some TV calibration. And so people are able to share their knowledge and understanding of different subjects. And like I said, we just have a blast, man. Have a blast. See, we got Melbourne, Australia. Yeah, you guys are all over the place, man. So I'll try to be more accommodating. So yeah, what were you saying, Ryan?
Should we do some super chats? And then I think I've got some updates that I can tell people about.
Yeah, 100%.
Then we can argue about something.
Awesome. Taylor, I know he popped in earlier. Taylor's one of my patrons. He and I have been doing some Helldivers 2 on the console and PC. So he just said he wanted to stop by and say hi.
Michael, is that Taylor, the guy that you kind of looped in with our group, right?
Yes, sir.
And he went to, so he connected to you through Patreon and Zoom, and then you connected him to me, and then I connected him to the group, and then he went to Eric's house, and somebody mentioned in the chat earlier, there was like a dozen people at Eric's house just a weekend or two ago, and I followed up with him, and he had a great time, and so, you know, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think Derek, he's in the chat. So Derek was the other guy. He was connecting. So definitely it's pretty cool just to see how everybody's, you know, getting connected. I got a couple more here. So it's Juan says, I appreciate the follower super chat. Should I build MDF enclosures for my KEF CI3160 in walls or use the stud bay as it sits with pink insulation?
The manufacturer should be telling him what to do on that, whether it needs to have an enclosure or whether it's designed to be open air with the studs in there. That should all be in the manual.
Most in-wall speakers, if they don't have a built-in backer box, they're going to be designed to fit inside that stud bay and then use that space as its cabinet.
I would think if you were to just manually, like, let's say, make your own, what we call a backer box, if you did that, wouldn't you change kind of how that speaker interacts or how it performs?
You would.
So it might be a negative impact, is I guess what I'm saying.
It would mostly just change the bass response. So your negative 3 dB point, your negative 10 dB point, like the smaller box would make it roll off sooner. It would have less bass than an open back. Too small of a box would be detrimental to several things, but But realistically, if they design it to be open airspace stud, then it's forgiving and it's got some space because, you know, there's going to be different heights of the ceiling and different amount of airspace in those walls. And if they're designed to be open, it's going to have some forgiveness there. If there's meant to have a box, like if it's ported or something that's supposed to have a specific backer box, it'll tell you that, and that's not as forgiving.
Now, some manufacturers, especially like in ceiling speakers, sometimes they'll sell a backer box. So you can buy one directly from the manufacturer.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time the in-ceiling ones are to stop leakage going to
From
the rest
going
of
into the house.
Yeah.
Okay. So it doesn't really
I mean,
would think
I don't, it will, but I'm saying that's a primary reason why they're sold.
I would think you'd get a little bit more bottom end just because, like in my case, I mean, the back end's going to the entire attic. You know what I mean? When I had in ceilings.
Be interesting if somebody had some documentation on one with and one without.
Because to me, it's different when you've got it in the wall and it's like a stud bay, because that's kind of narrow. It's not real deep, and really, it's not that tall, maybe from floor to ceiling. But in a ceiling and in a floor to attic, like it opens up to the entire. I guess technically, I guess there is some insulation sitting on top of it, so it's not just free air back there. But maybe that, maybe I guess that is the better option.
One resource you might want to check out, Aaron's Audio Corner. He did a pretty extensive video on in-wall speakers and built like a baffle wall and did a lot of measurements. And half of it went over my head, but I remember it being very informative of kind of backer box versus. He talked about that quite a bit, so I would look for that video.
Okay, cool. Bob, appreciate the $2 super chat. He said extroverts like wet bass. What's funny about that comment is I saw the most hilarious chat conversation on Facebook in another Facebook group about wet bass. Somebody just mentioned that and they were like, what the heck is wet bass? I mean, it just went on and on. People were explaining, they were making up definitions for it. Oh, well, wet bass is this, and wet bass is when the bass hits so hard that, you know, you got to change your underwear, and that's wet bass. And I was dying, man. It was hilarious. So Ryan, you have coined the new phrase wet bass, and it's going around the world.
I even heard Matthew Pose use that phrase a few times in his video. So I'm not sure if he got it from Ryan or he did it, but yeah, a few times he talked about wet bass. So it's a legitimate. We'll add it to the dictionary.
Yeah, man. The audiophile Wikipedia dictionary. Hi, Finest. Appreciate the $5 super chat. Hello, Jonathan. The AV10 is an objectively superior unit to the 8805A by a decent margin. Why do you think there's no sonic difference? Avium 70 review ?
Yeah, so we've talked about this before on several occasions. If you are in direct mode or no EQ application and you're just in a flat response out of the box mode, there's not going to be a difference because it's inaudible to our ears. Gene from Audioholics is a good reference. If you don't trust me, that's fine. Gene will give you the perspective in a review. I can link that in the private chat, and Youthman can put it on the public chat. But basically, a 70 synad is 0.03% distortion for reference. A 90 synad is like 0.00x something distortion. Your speakers, when you drive them towards reference, do full percentage points of distortion. Like all of them, no matter what you have, no matter how, maybe not the black swan when they're 117 dB sensitive, but like full percentage point distortion we're talking about. So if you're talking about the difference between 0.00x versus 0.05, let's say your speaker does 3 or 4% distortion. Do you think you can hear the difference between 4.05 or 4.03 and 4.003? I'll tell you, you cannot. And so you can hear the difference when you add EQ, or if you have auto EQ processing on and so forth like that, or potentially with different locations. I'm not sure my phone's blowing up right now. But you cannot, if EQ is turned off and you level match, you just can't hear the difference. That percentage point is below humans' hearing points. And Gene says it's in the 70 dB synod range where you can't really tell anymore. These processors, the AV10 is like 106, 107, something like that. The AV70 is very high too. The 8805 is very high. These are all up in the high 90s, 100 dB range synad. So you're really talking like 0.00x, 0.001, 0.003, that type of distortion levels. It's just not audible. It's just not.
And I've always shared that too. Not everything that can be measured can be heard. You know, so when you're talking about those minute differences, your brain may not be able to do that. Even like I made a video earlier, what was it, yesterday on Kaleidoscape. And some people are asking, is there a big difference between, let's say, physical media, 4K disc, and a Kaleidoscape? Well, Kaleidoscape sometimes can have a bigger file, but I'm not so sure you'd be able to hear that in a blind comparison, between a 4K disc and a Kaleidoscape, But what I try to share is people typically aren't buying Kaleidoscape because they're trying to get a better quality sound or picture. It's all the other things that Kaleidoscape offers. So, but I think Jonathan's right. Not and people that claim that they can hear that, I just really question, Jonathan.
No, they just can't, because there's been all kinds of studies done.
Crazy.
In fact, there's things you can test online. If you search like SYNAD or distortion test, percentage distortion, once it gets up to like 1% or 2%, if you're doing like back and forth with headphones and you're listening to it back and forth, you might hear 1% or 2%. Good luck hearing 0.00x or 0.00x even. Good luck. 100% of a distortion on a speaker that makes full percentage points.
Yeah.
No.
And so Pyro and Aaron bring up some good points. It's got to be placebo or maybe confirmation bias. So sometimes that does play a role. And
both of those can play a big role, because if you don't do fast switching, you're allowing yourself to fall victim to subjectivity bias, right? Because you're creating a subconscious bias, whether you mean to or not, during the transitionary periods, because you're going to have some bias, regardless of you're consciously doing it or not, of what you think is going to go what way. And that will influence your decision making. So if you don't do fast switching, because our auditory and video memories suck in the short term, if you don't do fast switching, there's no way for you to be able to determine what is better or what is worse. So that's why at MWAVE, we've really taken a very objective approach to this and done that fast switching very poignantly so that we can alleviate a lot of these shortcomings. So I encourage you, if you're going to do that and do those tests to try and figure out what makes the most sense for you, make sure you do it in a way where you're not listening to one thing, unplugging it all, and then plugging it into another. And make sure that you're not doing it with any Odyssey or Dirac calibrations on, because that in and of itself is definitely going to color it. Because I'd say virtually every single Odyssey, really room EQ calibration, is different than the one before it every time.
So this question continues from the same gentleman here. Yeah. So the reason that you don't necessarily just buy 3800 and be done is if you need more channels. Really, that's the main reason. Like, the Storm Audio does 32 channels. Maybe you need 15 channels for, a monoprice or a AV10 or something.
And the AV10 is using XLR, which is going to have a higher voltage output than RCA will. So there's benefits to a lot of this. It just depends on what you need in the signal chain. You have to look at this objectively. You have to figure out, and this is why we tell people on this, buy based on the feature set and the options that you need, and then dictate a buying decision based on what you actually want and need in your certain environment. Don't buy based on thinking there's going to be some type of sonic improvement. I mean, I can safely say, and I have no problem saying this, that if I put a Storm or even a Trinov either right next to I don't know, an Onkyo with no processing on, they're going to sound identical.
Right.
As long as I've SPL matched them, right? Because there is going to be a gain difference coming out of the outputs XLR versus RCA. But as long as you're accounting for those variables, they should sound sonically identical. Will they measure the same? Probably not, but they're going to be a lot closer than you think they are, especially if you look on Audio Science Review's SYNAD testing. Not saying that's the Bible, but a lot of these devices, especially AVRs and pre's, do not measure the way people think they do. It takes a dedicated DAC, like an X-Saber or a Topping or something like that, a lot of times for headphones, that are going to be able to deliver those ridiculous SYNAD scores. And I preach that a lot of that, and I have no problem with people buying them. I have an X-Saber sitting right next to me, which for a long time was ASR's top-rated DAC forever. And I wanted it because I wanted to have the confidence that what was going in and is what's going out. But I've put it right next to my Storm. I've put it right next to an Integra. I can't tell the difference if I SPL match them. You can't. So our ears are not measurement machines, right? They're not scientific pieces of equipment. They don't measure. We cannot measure to the decimal place that these machines can.
Correct.
It's just not possible. So get what sounds good to you and get what's good enough, meaning get the features and option sets that get the job done and be happy with it. There's no FOMO in this. Just get what checks the boxes for your environment.
Yeah. And if, you know, you don't need 14 speakers or 16 speakers or 32 speakers, and I have an 11 channel set up right now, 7.2.4. And so I've got 11 total speakers in the room. I don't need anything more in my room. And so I don't need to chase I've had people say, well, Michael, when are you going to Trinov? I may not ever. I mean, honestly, I don't think adding a Trinov is going to go, oh my gosh, you know, I've been missing so much in my room. I don't need that higher channel count. Now, Ryan, he's ridiculous. He's got like 400 speakers coming in this new build.
It actually went down.
He has four Storm audio processors. All daisy chained together.
Question for you, Ryan. Because you talked about, you know, which buy it for the features. Obviously, channel count is probably the number one criteria. So what would be like maybe 2, 3, 4 criteria that you would buy? Which features?
Channel count.
IMAX enhanced.
Shut up, Jonathan.
So to me, for like you guys on the right, I don't know about Rusty, but on the right, you really like doing like manual calibration. So some of these are better at manual calibration.
Well, we can talk about that. So what I would buy first and foremost is based on channel count, right? That's the number one thing. So you've got to figure out what is actually going to work. I'm lumping in there subwoofer count, right? Overall channels I'm lumping all of that in there. The next one's probably going to be calibration capability, because I think that's going to dictate what you can do in the theater. And like Massimo and Massimo in general, Denon and Marantz, have some PEQ capability, but not finite like some of the other brands do. And there's not as many as people may think that have wide spreading PEQ options. And then I'm lumping room EQ kind of in there as well into that one. And then the last one I'm probably going to say is RCA versus XLR. Because I think that's a bigger deal than people make it sound.
I would add one more to that list, and that would be the interface. The user interface is that. I mean, that's a big deal to me. It just being able to, where it's like a pleasant experience to interact with. Like if you can do, like I use the HTP One, you know, the poor man's Storm, and I love it. Like I wish it had more.
That's hilarious.
But it's great. You know, I wish it was 20 channels, and that's just because of subwoofer channels, but it's limited to 16. But I love that it's got a web interface. So all of the settings and configuration I can do anywhere with a mouse and keyboard. I don't have to use a stupid remote and like click through menus on the screen. Like that's a game changer difference to me. So that's something else I would consider for people, that if that matters to you, the interface.
So it's funny you mentioned that.
And app support, like Hios for the Denon and Marantz is fantastic. And just be able to play anything you want at any time from any place.
That's another good one.
So to me, Rusty, I would rather have a remote.
Me too.
I don't have to come in here and find my iPad.
You can do it on your phone. You can do it on your phone or your iPad.
Yeah, but you know how it's not as user or not.
That's true.
It doesn't lay out near as nicely on the phone.
Yeah.
You know, things get kind of squished.
I know.
At least the one that when I reviewed it, they may have made some firmware updates, and because I even made that comment in my video, I'm like, I mean, you really need an iPad for this thing to be a lot more user friendly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that to me, that's not as, I don't know.
It's not a selling point for you.
Not me, because then I got to go to an IP address, even though you can bookmark it and stuff, but it just, I don't know.
Is your phone lock, Michael? Like, do you have to unlock your phone each time and stuff too?
Yeah, I mean, just my Face ID though. So,
I think the reason I'm not a big fan of the phone stuff is I don't really want it lighten up the room when I'm watching a movie and stuff to And I have to unlock my phone. Half time face doesn't work. I have to use my keypad.
I think
I don't know,
Garrett
it's just
does it
annoying.
right. Web interface for config, remote for daily use.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, that I could see.
I think I'm with you, Rusty, that the web interface,
I can understand
once
that.
you use that for config, there's no going back. Like it's so much easier to be able to utilize.
But I agree. I think Derek's right on the money. So for the daily, or if I just want to go in and change something, I'd rather just grab the remote, go to whatever, adjust that, bump up the trim or whatever.
Well, and I like that. The thing I kind of like about the HTP one is that it kind of has that kind of open source mentality of you can do a lot of tinkering, a lot of PEQ and BEQ and other support that a lot of the more, the Denon Marantz products aren't as open to those types of things and as open to making modifications. So
I don't know.
It's definitely is. Yeah, that they're pretty open to suggestions, and and actually a big part of the reason I got it was because I think Youthman, man, this was back in the day. Y'all had Hobie on your that other podcast you did. And I just liked him. I just liked his attitude and his approach. He had just a great approach. So
yeah. And he's really involved in that, in all their product, because like he's the main guy over the monolith version of the department, I guess, of Monoprice, which is their home theater side of it.
Yeah,
so, but
it definitely has his DNA in the whole product line.
Yeah, 100%.
I got to agree with this too. You want the thing to work.
Yep.
But are there that many that don't work anymore?
There's a couple that have.
I know I notice how I said, are there that many?
I don't know.
I'm implying that there's some still there.
Yeah, I hear there's several brands that keep floating around the internet that they're like, yeah, it's kind of a little buggy, but I like it, and that's cool. But I just love the fact that every single time I turn it on, it works like I need it to. It's not glitchy. It's not.
Absolutely.
I don't have hiccups. I don't have to do workarounds. So I agree. I like that. And Aaron says lack of bugginess. Yeah. That's a big factor to me. Sweet, man. All right, Ryan, give us your update and then we'll jump into your questions. We got probably about 15 of them starred. We'll run through those and
okay.
Go ahead.
So let me share this right quick. Window, this share. So this is just AutoCAD viewing right here. Okay. So this is my room from a top-down perspective.
Nice.
So you've got the front baffle wall, the rear wall, the 50s right there, the Griffin, two 21s, the 12s will sit on top of the 21s, and then
Can you move your mouse? Let me see if we can even see that. Oh, yeah. Okay, that'd be helpful.
There you go.
Even if we can just see your mouse.
Yeah, I was looking over the wrong one. So you got front baffle, back baffle, 50, 21, 21, Griffin.
21 slinking at 50.
And then
that's barely
12s are going to sit on top of the 21s.
Oh, interesting.
And then you've got 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, the black swans, and then the 12s in ceiling. So the problem that I ran into is these speakers are not small, right? The 12s are like 12 inches thick. They're big boys that are going in the ceiling. And for anybody that's never been to my room, my ceiling heights are not that tall. And historically, Jonathan knows firsthand.
I got the knots to prove it.
That you can run into some of these speakers that were hanging from the ceiling previously. So ceiling height right now, down to the OSB, because it was about 8 feet, but we lost some of that because I've got Rissick clips and then I've got double stack 3/4 inch plywood or OSB. So putting a foot thick speaker on top of that, I would be at 6'8", which would have been fine. I could have walked under that, no problem. But you start putting the cloud ceilings underneath that, and it was just problematic. So I don't have pictures of this yet. I'm going to take some pictures of it tomorrow. So watch the AVS thread for this. But we cut big ass holes in my ceiling to fit these speakers. So the holes are 30 inches by 30 inches. And the reason I made them so large is
Wow.
because the speakers are big, right? And
Mhm.
some of the speakers are at an angle. And how I decided to do these mounts was it's actually a commercial projector mount for a little projector. Like it's not
Mhm.
made for a big like 380 or Griffin or something like
Yeah.
that. It's made for smaller projectors, and it is able to pivot to turn 360 degrees, and then it can do
Nice.
this all the way down. So I just center that in the hole.
Mhm.
The speakers, you can see their mounting points are centered. So I'm going to put a piece of OSB on the back of each speaker, attach the bracket to the back, and then as long as the bracket is centered in the hole, I can just rotate the speaker in the hole and then pivot it. So I don't have to worry about getting all of my points right. I can turn it and manipulate it after it's on the ceiling. So the holes are large enough. I didn't want to use circles because that would have been a pain. The holes are large enough so that I can turn the speaker all the way around. So it worked out because how my basement is designed, I have box vaults, and these box vaults go up to just under 9 feet and then extend for a few feet, and then it comes down, and that's your normal 8-foot ceiling. So the second floor is actually suspended on metal beams that come across the house. In the theater, that beam sits, I don't know, a foot to 15 inches above the actual ceiling of the theater. Now we could go up higher, but then the ceiling wouldn't be even, so we just elected to make it flat. But that gave us a ton of empty space above. Now we had filled that with bracing, and we had filled it with the hat channel. So when we cut out these squares, we then had to get it off the hat channel. We had to cut off that part of the hat channel, and then we had to re-brace all of the bracing that was in the ceiling to make sure that it was holding up the rest of the hat channel. So we ended up doing that, and it went a lot smoother than I thought it was going to be. No ceiling collapsed, so that was a win. We didn't cut any electrical wires, so that was a win. We didn't cut any of the speaker wire, so that was another win. It went really well. So I've got to go back through, repack all of the installation, but I'm going to do that after this while I'm putting the speakers in. And speaking of speakers, I go Friday with a good friend of mine here that's another local dealer here in Kansas City. We're flying down to Houston because all the speakers came in. And when I say all of them, I mean all of them. So all 11 subs and all 17 speakers came in, and then we're driving them back in a 26-foot box truck. So, yeah, I still have to figure out how we're going to do this because I've called several different locations, and they will not allow you to one-way trip a box truck with a lift gate.
Oh, interesting.
So I got to call my freight carrier. I may just have them shipped depending on the pricing they give me. Because sometimes we can do a full truckload, but they'll just throw it on with everything else, and we'll see what they end up doing. But if not, I'm going to have to ask, like, is there a fee that we can pay to send the truck back? Because I got to figure this out and make this happen.
So Ryan, is Ascendo in Houston? Is that where they manufacture?
The distributor is in Houston. No, they're manufactured in Germany, and they ship over, and they come in off the port, and then they're warehoused in Houston. So I got to go down and get them.
So you can't do a U-Haul that won't fit?
No, the U-Haul doesn't have a lift gate.
Oh,
because the 50-inch weighs 1,000 pounds. I can't really lift that into the lift gate or into the U-Haul.
I'm curious, how are you getting it into your house? Like
safe movers.
They're going to be able to move it down your stairwell, though?
Yeah, 1,000 pounds.
Yeah,
they better all look like.
You guys know how much some safes weigh?
I'm talking about like just the size of that.
It'll fit.
Making around the corner.
It'll fit.
Yeah, you better. And now you're gonna be digging out the side of your house in the basement.
Make it work.
Yeah.
Gonna have to cut out the floor above and make that 30-inch hole bigger.
Then we also have to
through the ceiling.
We got to change out the 50-inch driver because Ascendo has updated the driver. So we've got to drop in a new one, and that driver weighs 400 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's going to be,
wild.
an adventurous trip. But that's the room. So that's the state of the room right now. We got to clean it up. Oh, the other news is the flooring. We decided what we're going to do for the flooring. So we're going to, I got to level the floor. And people are probably thinking like, why do you need to level your basement floor? Well, the reason I have to is because how this room is designed, there's a couple inches on the bottom of all the walls. There's going to be a lighting channel that goes around all the way on the bottom. If the floor is not level, the reveal, you will be able to see it. And it would distract the hell out of me. So we're going to level the floor. And when they level the floor, they're also going to seal it. And they're going to put on a commercial. It's actually a commercial company that's doing this. They're going to put on a commercial level, like coating and sealer that you would find in like a MRI room or something. So it's super strong, but it's going to be black and it'll have like marbling and stuff in it, and it'll be matte. So it won't be reflective. So the original name, the Void, I mean, it standing up to it, it's all dark.
Right.
And then the last thing I'm trying to figure out from today is I got the paint, Duratex paint. And so I'm pretty sure I'm going to paint it. There was an inkling that I may just coat the entire top of the ceiling in Dynamat. But the problem I have with that is it would be a pretty heavy absorber from the front. So we'll have to see what ends up transpiring.
Randy says most stairs
I see it.
600, 700 pounds.
If that has to happen, we can take the driver out.
And you have access underneath your staircase, so you could prop it up. I could
brace it. Yeah, we can get underneath there.
Some 2x4s or something just to help make sure. It might be a good idea just to do it for the few dollars.
Just get Chirpy over there and Sheldon just to hold it. Just
first world problems, man. So I had to install bracing on my staircase to get the subwoofer down the stairs. Yeah.
What he hasn't told you is this is part of the VIP experience.
Yeah, they got to help.
So get ready.
I'm going to be helping. Yep. That's awesome.
But the room should be done. I don't really have any worries about it by MWAVE. The projector was in stock. It's should be getting ready to be on its way towards where it needs to go for some lens modifications.
And you're doing a Christie, which one?
Griffin.
Okay. Nice. And that's a gorgeous.
Ryan, about 10 or 15 years ago, I went to a shootout in this one would have been Des Moines, maybe. I'm trying to remember. It was a guy's house, and he had a 485-pound horn sub that we were bringing down for a subwoofer shootout. And the guy owner's name was Greg. It was in Omaha, actually. Yeah. Any rate, I was on the bottom side of that 485-pound stupid horn sub, bringing it down the stairs, and there was guys on my back.
I remember you telling me this.
Guys on my back pushing on me, and if those guys weren't there pushing on my back, I'm totally relying on them because it's so dang heavy. It wasn't wide enough to put two of us on the horn sub, so it's just me holding the bottom and guys holding my back. All that weight was on me. That's one of the dumbest, scariest things.
Yeah. That's
Don't
why I'm
be
not
the guy
doing
on the
it
downside
myself.
of the stairs, because if those guys had tripped or fallen, I'd probably be dead.
I'm gonna hire safe or piano movers, because that's what they do, right? They do that. Let the professionals do it. I don't want to have anything to do with it. And we've already, I got a pool table in my basement, so we've already moved big ass granite slabs or marble slabs downstairs. Not that they're that heavy, but I don't know that it's that big of a.
It might be good if you even just lay it on the ground and let it slide down with a bunch of guys at the top, like lowering it over this. Just let it go on itself down the rug, maybe.
Maybe
let it glide down slow on the
steps
itself.
Yeah, but the issue, that's the main stairs. It's getting it around the landing and dealing with that, and I'm just gonna have those guys do it, and then.
You might as well get your drywall repair guy on the side on standby.
Oh yeah, and there's damage and stuff already from us doing down there. We had a Sawzall blade go through the stair landing when we were doing some stuff in the basement. So there's things that need to be done. Yeah, because when we had to move some stuff. Like
Yeah.
One of the walls we had to move was right next to where the stair landing is, and we had to cut something. And where we were cutting, we had to use a Sawzall, and it just the tip of it went through the drywall into the upper part. So it just takes some drywall repair. It's not a big deal. What AUG for? I'm guessing the speaker wire. So the speaker wire is all 12 gauge. For the whole room, because there's going to be some power going to all of these speakers. I mean, the 50-inch sub and the 32s they're dual voice coil. They're going to be 20,000 watts a piece. There's 6 20,000 watt amplifiers for the theater for the subs, and then the other ones are running on I think Trinov Altitude 16s, all bridged.
Ryan, can you share a little more about the room itself? Because that's interesting how you're getting a room imported from Italy. You talked about it a little bit, but I don't know much about
Let me bring up some pictures of that. So
that's definitely a unique approach.
So let's do.
Yeah, Officina Acustica. They did that at CEDIA last year, maybe even the year before. So it's kind of modular rooms. They're able to design it, build it, construct it overseas, and then ship it, and then assemble it. And technically, if Ryan built a new home, he could take it apart and take it with him.
So that's the room. When it's all said and done, that's the 50 in the back. So it should be acting as a near field because it'll be within 50 inches of you. So if anybody wants their organs rearranged, it will be ready to go. Nope, can't talk about that
the
yet.
21s are not in that original
you can't
draft.
See them. They're back there.
Okay,
The
so are you going to be able to see those,
the only one
Ryan?
that you could see? No, the 50 is the only thing you can see.
That's
and I did that because the 50 is.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm a dealer, guys. I'm a dealer. It's very much a marketing thing. It's you got to be able to see it. It's something out of this world. I wanted people to be able to see it, and that's why it's visible. I didn't want to hide it.
Yeah.
Plus, it looks like the Death Star back there. I mean, it fits the room.
Yeah.
So the room down here, this will all be black with like a marbling through it. So it's not just going to be a matte black, same thing all the way through the floor. It'll be it won't be in your face, but there'll be some texture to it. And then we'll have a rug up here. The screen, I think we decided on the screen being,
that's funny.
The screen's going to be about 170 inches diagonal.
Okay.
It's about 150 wide. I think
that's going to be amazing being able to see your room.
What I just talked to Evan about with Seymour is we're going to make the entire front wall the screen.
Yeah.
The whole wall. So everything in between the panels is screen, the whole thing. And then we're going to use manual masking to effectively mask it down. Regardless if I use the top and bottom of the screen or not, it's simplified the entire manufacturing process because I don't really have to have anything behind the wall. Like it's just screen. That's it. So the speakers have nothing to get in the way. It's going to be a Screen Excellence Neo. I'm pretty sure that's what it's going to be. But the whole wall, throw distance for the projector because the room's only 14 feet deep, 14 and a half feet deep. So the Griffin is going to be sitting like 15 to 16 feet away from that screen, 32,000 lumens.
Do you have to have a special lens built for that? Because
they have a lens for it. So I have to sit it a little bit back in the room, like past the rear wall, so that the port in the back is going to have to be a little bit bigger because 14 feet is too close. I could use a prime lens to be able to do it, but then I wouldn't have zoom and I would lose some light. So, we're currently talking about that. I've got some drafts coming over from Maurizio from Officina that we're going to use to try and figure that out because it's a 3D rendering and I've got to talk to Seymour about it so that we can figure out the screen size. And then I've got to talk to Christy to make sure we get the right lens. But right now it should be good to go.
How does that
32,000 lumens equates to only 300 nits? You said 300
No.
nits earlier, right?
No, it'll go well past that. But I'm going to lose doing a contrast mod. I'm probably going to lose half that, would be my guess. So the hope is we're going to be somewhere between 12 and 15,000 to 1 contrast, which is for a
JVC
projector,
territory. Sure.
for a projector that's capable of 300 nits. That's insane. I mean, that's insane. So 300 nits. I mean, we saw 300 nits. That was minimum laser power for the
blinding, man.
on a 210-inch screen.
I still remember that.
It was minimum laser power.
Yeah.
And it was 300 nits or something insane. So 500 nits, I think, was at 75% or something crazy. But I'm going to lose half of that at least to the contrast mod to gain the contrast, which I want. But I don't need all of that brightness. I mean, it's that I'd burn a hole. You'd stand up and immediately be blind. No, you wouldn't, but you know.
We finally found your limit, man. How does the you have a glacier white right now? Is that or had?
Yeah, it's still sitting in my room. If anybody wants a really cheap glacier white screen, I think it's 135-inch diagonal. It needs to.
How does the Neo compare to that?
The Neo is woven, so the glacier white is not. It's not acoustically transparent.
Okay.
The screen we're doing, I can't talk about yet.
Something new?
Possibly.
It's like DOD level screen material.
Possibly. It's either going to be the normal Neo or it's going to be something else from Seymour, but can't talk about it yet.
To be continued.
So somebody asked earlier about your cutouts. Does that hurt your room soundproofing that you were working on? How are you doing that?
I mean, yeah, it will, but it's inevitable. It's a compromise I was willing to make, and I'm going to pack all that with insulation. And I'm talking to a vendor about Dynamat and putting that up all in there. So I'm hoping to limit that. But it's something that I have to do in order to get the speakers in the ceiling. Otherwise, it wasn't going to happen. And
you're doing the 12s from Ascendo?
Yeah. The 15s are too big. They don't make a 15 wedge either. And I was going to do the normal 15s. Then I was looking at the measurements and I had to call Todd, my distributor, and be like, these are too big. Like, they're enormous. They're like almost 15 inches thick and they're over 3 feet long. They're huge. And to put those in my ceiling, it wasn't going to work. So
Ryan, did you see your projectors technically outside the room?
Yeah. So if we flip this around.
So that kind of answers Gary's question. He was saying having your projector mounted above a 50-inch sub, would that affect that?
No, there's going to be a platform here. And there's enough room because the Griffin, I think, is 15 inches tall. There's enough room for the projector to sit. And then it'll actually have to sit slightly behind the 50 and it'll fire through this port. So when we initially install the room, these panels are not going to be there because we need to figure out where the projector is going to go and then make these panels to spec. However, we're going to do that.
If you guys aren't familiar with the Griffin, this is a monster. This may not be the exact one that Ryan's installing, but
no, that looks like it.
This is not your typical projector, man. I thought, when I went from a Panasonic or when I went from the Epson 5040 UB to, excuse me, the JVC NX7, I was like, whoa, dude, that is massive. Nah, that's small potatoes, man. These things are huge. I was trying to see what's the weight on this thing. Do you know?
175 pounds.
Yeah, here's the specs. 36,000 lumens.
That's ISO lumens, though. ANSI lumens is 32. But it's a true 3 laser. It'll do RGB. It'll do the full BT 2020 color spectrum.
Man,
it's a beast. I mean, it was
energy efficiency. Click that one.
Yeah, it's not. There's going to be some stuff. The room, I intentionally designed the room to be able to easily change things. So there's a possibility that I'm going to have to do a rather decent possibility that I'm going to have to do the ducted mini split for this thing, because its heat generation is not inconsequential. I mean, it's a beast. I mean, look at the heating array on the back of that thing. It's we'll have to see how it ends up.
That Atlanta home theater, and they wheeled it in on a cart, man. Yeah. I was like, golly, this thing is a monster.
Will it do 1,000 nits? I mean, it will. It would probably do close to 1,000 nits full bore without any modifications in my room.
Yeah.
Does it have Dolby Vision? No, but I have an Envy, so it doesn't matter. So that's not a big deal. Envy does it all for you. But what I was saying earlier was I was in a dilemma about what to do for the theater. I wanted to not really spend a lot of money for a projector because, you know, it's already adding up. But internally, I was arguing with myself about different things, and it just came down to it would be a compromise not to, right? So, and the whole point of the room is as little compromise as possible. So I just felt, as strange as it sounds, obligated, especially as a showroom and as the MadVR Experience Center, because a big part of this room is video, because it is the MadVR Experience Center.
Yeah.
To put something in there that was capable of that. And I've seen them, and somebody was asking about the Eclipse, and it's just,
it's like 3 to 4 times the cost.
No, it wouldn't work.
And just the installation alone.
Oh,
I mean,
is a lot.
Crazy.
A lot.
It's a big setup.
A lot. So we'll see. I mean, a ducted mini split isn't going to be a big deal. I can run ducting behind all of the wall panels, because every single one of these panels, if I put this back up there, is something I can pull off. So I have probably 7 inches of space behind any of these panels back here. So I can run electrical, ducting, whatever I need to at any time. So it's not hard for me to change things, which is why I've designed the room this way, because it's very flexible.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about holding myself in a position where I can't do anything in the future.
Yeah. That, to me, that would be the dream, to have like a catwalk or all the way around the room where you could just walk up and do whatever you want. Because I'm constantly, it seems like I'm always adding new wires.
Well, that's why we had to do OSB, was because of that. Because all of this is attached to like an all stud superstructure behind it. And then the panels attached to that. And if I did drywall, it wouldn't support these walls, because if you look at the bottom of these walls, like, they float, they're not touching the floor. So all of these are floating, and the gypsum wouldn't support that. So unfortunately for myself and the contractor, it was a lot. When we were taking those 30-inch squares out, dude, those are heavy, because it's 2 pieces of 3/4-inch OSB with effectively a full tube of green glue in that 30 by 30 square, because there's not that much, but each 4x8 sheet of drywall sandwich got 2 tubes of green glue.
Yeah.
So it's 8,000 pounds of drywall, or not drywall, but of OSB in that room.
How big are the Officina panels, like the individual pieces? Like, are they like 2 foot wide or so?
They're custom. They're whatever is deemed appropriate for the space. So you can see of the sizes in this, and this is very rough. I don't know how accurate this is to the panel sizes, but you can see the panel sizes here, because this is the side wall, this is the entry door, and then this is the other door, or the other wall.
Yeah.
And then they mimicked the walls here, and this is the first time they've ever done this, because normally it's just a straight wall, but these walls aren't going to be straight. They're curving and not curving, but angling to provide more depth into the space with the speakers. And then we mimicked it over here, because we've got the door and everything. And then this is a acoustic door that they're manufacturing, and it's got the drop plate and everything, like Ryan talked about during his stream and when he was on with us. So
Right.
I'm excited about it.
What are the V's in the back of the room? Is that anything?
Those are, so these are bass traps.
Okay.
So they're suspended. I have to wait until the room's done, and Maurizio is going to help me learn how to build them. They're not complicated. They're effectively OSB with absorbent material attached to them, and they're designed in such a way that they really target low frequency. So it's a low frequency absorber. But we wanted to do it in a way where we weren't just blanket attacking high frequency, so we can target the low frequency and try and help our RP60s. And then up here, we're putting OSB in front of all of these, in front of the subs, so it's only the subs that are going to be there, so that we're limiting the amount of space in the room.
Interaction, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice, man.
Yeah. I'm excited. It's just a lot of ongoing work, and then a lot of nothing, and then a lot of ongoing work, and then a lot of nothing. So
yeah, this is truly, I mean, literally, this is going to be an epic showroom.
Hopefully it doesn't suck.
He says that. Actually, you know what you need to do? You need to go on Etsy, get somebody to make you a
should do that
outside the room. Hopefully it doesn't suck.
Hope it doesn't suck. Get that in neon lights and put it above the door.
Right, man.
I should do that. That's actually a great idea. I don't think it's gonna suck. I just have this like subconscious worry that let me get rid of this. I just have this subconscious worry that I'm gonna listen to it for the first time, be like, well, that wasn't worth it. So it's just, you know, I don't see how you couldn't have that worry. I mean, I think all of you.
Yeah, we all do.
Everybody does or would. Sure. It's just, I hope it is. I mean, I remember hearing the Black Swans and it being amazing.
Yeah.
And being able to do that. And I use my theater, I mean, I'll admit it, more for music, 2-channel surround than I do for movies.
Right.
So to be able to have that in this space and be able to showcase it and share it with other people, I mean, that's what the room's all about. And I tell people this all the time, that this room's open to anybody. I mean, this isn't a closed space. I mean, it's open to vendors, it's open to other dealers, it's open to
manufacturers,
end users. I just want to share this space with as many people as I can. And the room, my vision for it was to be able to show people what's possible and to show people what can be achieved. Not that any of the rooms that I've ever experienced don't embody that. It's just, this is my vision of it, if you will.
So have you even rough estimate on total MSRP? What are we probably looking at? Again, I mean, Ryan's a dealer, so he's got connections. He's got some sponsors helping out.
Probably,
if somebody wanted to build this, like just the average end user,
MSRP is probably
750,
1.2 million.
Okay, so higher than that. So they were way
in that ballpark.
Some were saying 250, 500.
No, it's way more than that.
1.2. Wow.
The speakers by themselves are encroaching on $600,000 to $700,000.
Okay.
With the amps and the subs and all of that stuff. So, like I think the MSRP on the 50-inch is like, I'd have to look at my price sheet, but I think it's like 120.
Yeah. I think I found that somewhere. He said, "Lord have mercy."
So
I love it. I love how he spells it too, man. That's awesome.
That's great.
I think I'd have to go through and add everything up, but it's
maybe you shouldn't.
I mean, I'm gonna build a book. Like, I want to have a build book for it. So with the whole progression of it, with the pictures and my thought process, and I'm gonna write a bunch of stuff out for like why I decided to do things, because I want to be able to hand that to people and be like, this is what this room is. Like,
this would be almost like a cool
everything of what my thought processes were, what I argued with myself about, what I was designing and what I was trying to do. You know, like even on the flooring, I have gone back and forth so many times on the flooring. Do I do engineered hardwoods? Do I do whatever it is, luxury vinyl? Do I do real hardwoods? Do I do stained flooring? I don't know. And that finally won out when I was having a talk with Maurizio about That should be the
about to
title of
set
the
up
book, Gary.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't suck, but
It finally came from
That's great.
Mauricio,
awesome.
where he said that, it'd be nice to have the flooring not eat up a full inch or inch and a half with underlayment, engineered hardwood, and decking. And I think the leveling is going to take up like half an inch. So that's not inconsequential, but it's still, is that labor and installation? I'll factor that in just to give it a MSRP. I mean, I did a lot of it. My contractor's been amazing that built the room, that did all of the OSB, that did the clips and channel. I mean, he learned all of this. He's a commercial drywall,er, but he does a lot of stuff. He did an awesome job.
Yeah.
So I just got to add everything up and go through it all and figure out how much it actually is.
Yeah.
Every time I do that, I stop myself because it gets a little scary. But everything I think at this point, aside from like some little stuff, is all paid for.
Yeah.
So finally.
Yeah. Ryan bought this printer, man. It's amazing. It prints money, like straight out money.
Nobody's caught me yet.
It's a fast printer too. That's what's amazing. I'm totally kidding.
Man.
That's awesome, man.
Those VIP tickets are going up.
What people are gonna be doing, they're gonna be scalping their tickets.
Exactly.
Hey,
yeah.
3 seats here.
Yeah. $2,000 a piece now.
That's right.
Well, one reason I think my theater sold out is just because there's only, what did we do? 3 seats per. Yeah. So I think we only did
you only have
seats.
2 days that you can do it, Thursday night and Friday night. Versus like Jonathan, he's doing Thursday, but he's got 3 time slots and he's got 8 seats or 6 seats or however many he has. So yeah.
The auction is already.
I'm excited for you, brother. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for all the people over the next several years that are going to be coming through your showroom to check.
It's already happening. It's already happening.
Yeah. Brian is excited. And Brian's buddy and one of my patrons, another patron, Brian is too, from the UK, John, he's got one. So he's going to be there. John, you're going to love John too, man. He's a super cool dude.
It's a good time. It's
8th wonder of the world for sure.
One unfortunate thing is I lost all of my movies. They went away. Yeah, the whole array crashed. I don't know what happened. The whole thing died. No,
he's talking is like
on like my Synology and stuff. Like everything just went. So that's all gone. So, but it was time just to move on. And so, I mean, Kaleidoscape's fine. So I already have that.
Cool.
But that was unfortunate. So now I got to try and rebuild some demo clips and re-download all of the actual Dolby stuff to help Ryan with his energy bill.
Oh, gosh. Wow. I saw some funny comments earlier about your neighborhood.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be that bad. I'm not Scott.
Like their bill is going up is what they were saying.
You see that Scott hit 150.4 today?
No.
Wow.
150.4 dB.
Oh my gosh.
He finally did it.
I'm going to Scott's. He's got his Bass Brings Us Together event. You said you're coming this year, right?
I'm coming. Yeah.
So that's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, no RAID 6 because I'm an amateur. I mean, I'm not an amateur. I was lazy and I was cheap. So I didn't buy more hard drives.
Yeah. Oh, good.
It's fine. It wasn't something that I was worried about losing.
Did you actually have 2 drives fail? Because RAID 5, you have a spare in there.
No, I had a bunch. Like the whole array died.
Yeah, but why?
I don't know. Power.
Controller die or the one?
I don't know what happened.
He plugged in his subs. Somebody had a good point. Nobody's going to be stealing that thing at 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I could bury somebody in it and nobody would know. Just open up the cabinet.
I can't wait to see it. This is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
You've never
I
seen
hope it
one?
doesn't suck too.
No.
Yeah. It was at Cedia, in 22, and this is actually the sub that was at Cedia. This is the sub.
Oh, it's the one. Yeah, I saw
this
it
is
there.
like not that it's the 50, like this is that sub that's going to be there.
You'll just have an upgraded driver.
Yeah, it'll just be a different driver, but it's that sub.
So we'll definitely have to, once you get everything settled in and dialed in, we'll do a really cool home theater tour of it. That'd be awesome.
So hopefully it doesn't suck.
Yeah. And that'll be the title and or the thumbnail. Hope it doesn't suck.
And then you open with me just looking all pitiful.
Just like, guys,
sulking.
It might have sucked.
I'm going back to my Martin Logans.
I still do love my Martin Logans. It was just time for something different.
Yeah.
This change was not because I felt like I was missing from those 15As or anything. It was just time for something different.
And somebody bought those, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So everything all I think is gone.
Yeah. So you still got your screen. So if
I do have the screen.
Okay.
I do have the screen. So if anybody wants a really good screen for not a lot of money, I'm not going to ship it because it's not small, but it does need a home. I still remember
come pick it up.
Chris and Evan coming in and Chris going 30 minutes. And it was not 30 minutes.
I think 3 hours.
It was like 2 hours. And that was the day we had the home theater tours for MWAVE. And people were waiting upstairs for us to finish the screen. And then I start zooming out my NZ9. And I zoom out my NZ9. And then the zoom stops. And I don't have any more zoom on the NZ9. So it was, I barely made it.
Yeah.
I made it by 1/8 of an inch. Lucky for not measuring.
Yeah.
Worked out.
Awesome, man.
Worked out.
Let's hit some questions here. So Bruce says, would like your opinion with so many streaming services available today for music. Do you think that music CDs will basically become obsolete in the near future?
So you mentioned this at the beginning of the stream that I had some things that I wanted to do or at MWAVE. And I think this is going to be one of the things that I want to do. I want to do blind auditions for people of streaming versus physical media. So this includes movies and music.
Okay.
And I want to be able to tell if people can tell the difference. So
you'll have to have full bandwidth subs in order to do that test, because some of the stuff they cut out is like the 15 hertz type frequencies, and that's documented. Like not just saying that. So you can run a recording of it, analysis of it, and see that it's dropping like 5, 6, 7 dB off the lowest frequencies.
We will do that. So that's a big one. What was the other thing that I was talking about doing? Maybe that
was the one thing. Yeah, that's what you told me. Tyler says, what is the purpose of attaching a driver directly to the back of your seat? Is it strictly for tactile feel? Would it produce any chest back thump? So Jonathan, earlier in the show, you've actually installed 2 8-inch drivers to the rear of your theater seats.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it's for. We've always talked about near field subs on here, and we talked about it tonight already too. If you're within the driver, more or less, if you're within the driver diameter between the distance between your back and the driver diameter, it has a very intense feel, much more intense than a far field sub. So, whether you do it near field or whether you attach the drivers directly into the seat, the drivers directly in the seat almost give you a little bit more, because it's actually physically shaking the seat and not just acoustic energy alone. Plus you still have the driver cone feel. So, it definitely produces like the vibration, the acoustic energy. If you've ever gone and sat on a subwoofer and like felt how it feels, or just held one in your hand and feel how it feels when it's playing, there's a lot of energy just coming off the driver. So the housing of the driver vibrates right in front of the driver, and so in front of the cone, you get that acoustic energy feel. It's all very nice. So that's exactly what it does. Makes it feel like the subwoofer is probably playing 10 dB louder than it is, just by the extra feel.
Jonathan, I just now saw you put a link in the private chat. What was that one too? The Yamaha?
Yeah, that was when we were talking about the SYNAD discussion and like how much difference a receiver would do. I was just linking Gene's review where he's talking about humans can't hear above about 70 dB SYNAD.
Okay.
You know, so that was that link.
There we go. I just dropped it in the chat for you guys. I just wanted to put something in front of it instead of just dropping a link. All right, let's keep going here. So Oprah says, hey guys, speaker break-in a real thing or nonsense? I love this question, man. So we get asked this a lot. And what he's referring to is some people suggest that, you know, when you buy a speaker, before you really do any critical listening to it, you really need to give it like 100 hours of break-in period for the drivers to kind of loosen up and perform their best. What are
You
your
don't
thoughts?
believe that?
I do not. Don't. Not at all. I believe that maybe with a subwoofer, there is a break-in period, but I'm not talking hundreds of hours. I'm talking minutes, you know, for the spider to kind of loosen up, but that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
And can you hear that? No, I really don't. I think that is way up here in people's minds going, yeah, man, my speakers sound better now that I've been listening to them for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. They're getting used to it. They're breaking in.
Yeah, I really think that.
There are micro amounts of break-in, like compliance adjustments and stuff but I'm with Michael. It's not audible.
Rusty, you a break-in guy? Or is it nonsense?
If I'm sure there's some amount of break-in that actually happens mechanically, but I can't hear a difference. Like I've never been able to tell. So if it's happening, my ears aren't good enough to pick it up.
Yeah. Kind of going back real quick, Grave says, some people say they don't like near field subs. Sure. Some people don't like tactile transducers. Some people don't like a lot of things. You got to figure out what works best for you. Now, one thing I will say with this is I would highly encourage you to, and that I guess that it's kind of hard to quantify this, but find someone that has done it right. Because I think you can have near field subs and they can be absolutely distracting in a movie. But I guarantee, and Rusty can attest to this, you go to Jonathan's house, he's got 18s. Now he's got 2 8s in addition to that. And I guarantee you, your brain isn't going to go, oh man, those subs are pushing me from the back. It's just an overwhelming bass experience. So
yeah, those people need to go to Jonathan's.
Jonathan nailed it. I think he nailed it. I love it. But yeah. Back up here. All right. Van says, I've only experienced one theater here. And hang on. Olathe. I had to think about it. I used to say Alathi, and I could never.
Everybody does.
Olathe.
If he's still here, what's his AVS forum handle? He put a joke in there that he reached out to me and I said I wouldn't visit him unless he bought JTR, which is not true, by the way. Not true. He might have reached out to me. I'm trying to remember which one he is on AVS forum.
Van, let us know if you're still in the chat what your AVS handle is.
Yeah, and I might be your next door neighbor.
There you go. Ender says, can an audio system be calibrated remotely? There's no one in my area that can do it. Do you know anyone who provides? And somebody did drop a link or mention, I think Brandon Hill does them. There's other guys in the various forums and Facebook groups. So yeah, there's definitely some people that can dial into your system remotely. See, Sammy says the Trinov room that night after CDO was pretty impressive. So he's talking about they had like kind of like was that like a private showing?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think I was doing something that year.
We did
I was still filming.
It was
you went above reference, I heard.
Yeah.
You're like, let's go, baby.
I think we hit not newbie levels, but it was like 140.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. So
was Jeffrey having people sign waivers?
No, it was just kind of a spur of the moment thing. We didn't do it for very long because it's not safe to do it at that level.
No.
But it was just amazing at how the room was able to do it, and it seemed like without really breaking a sweat. So we'll do that demo in my room, but I'm going to provide people with ear protection in order to do it.
Yeah, there'll be inner ear plugs. There'll be the big ones that the lawnmower dude, you know, the landscapers.
People are going to think we're going shooting.
And then there's a helmet that goes over top of that, like the Magneto helmet, I think is what he's. So you'll be covered, man. Don't you worry. Sassacant says, how do you integrate near field subwoofers compared to your regular subwoofers? Do you set delays and EQ the same way?
Play and pray.
Just turn dials. Is that what you do, Jonathan?
What's that?
You just start spinning dials, you know?
Yeah, hopefully land in the right place.
That's right.
No, it's not as complicated as some people would make it out, I don't think, but there's subjectivity in there. And some people will say like, hey, I want to have a high pass filter and I want to also have a low pass filter. Maybe I don't want to play something over 60 hertz because I don't like the way that feels, or maybe I want to drop out the lowest one because I don't like that feel. So there's some setup and stuff, but as far as just setting the distances, in my experience, as long as your subwoofer is like as close as it can be to the chair, the auto EQ will set the distances well enough for the near field subs, not for tactile transducers, but for the near field subs it will. And then it's kind of doing whatever kind of specific EQ you want to taste. I liked running them. My near field subs were basically run full range, and then I lowered the dB just a little bit from the front, like 1 or 2 dB less than the front, so that the sound didn't come from behind me. It still sounded like a front sound stage was producing the sound. I found that pretty easy to integrate. The tactile transducers are much harder to integrate accurately without,
especially due to delay and other stuff,
without having something artificial feeling about them.
Sure.
They're actually kind of a pain, but when dialed in correctly, they do add a lot.
They're wonderful, and butt kickers can feel awful, but if you get them dialed in with the right delays, they're really nice.
Yep. It's all about calibration. So Van, he is still in here. 33 kills on the AVS form.
All right. Yeah, I remember talking to him. I know you don't have to have JTR before anyone would come visit you. Come on, man.
Isn't that the guy you blocked or something?
Oh, yeah.
That the other day.
We talked about him before the show, right?
Yeah, we did it.
You guys trying to get me in trouble. No, we didn't.
I like running Jonathan under the bus and watching.
I'm not starting any more questions.
That's funny.
Tiki time. Is Kef going to be at MWAVE with their KF92 sub? Interested to know how twin 9-inch force canceling can get down to 11 dB. And where did he mean 11 hertz? Or okay. And where do you place them?
I gotta go look at this.
Seats? So Kef has not as of right now, they're not going to be at MWAVE. So,
and before I get into any of this, and Jonathan, I think you would agree, I like Kef. I think they make good speakers. They're objectively oriented for the most part. They just do some kind of wonky advertising and marketing with their subs. Like,
I don't really like Kef. And the reason I don't really like Kef is because I've never heard them be capable of reference volumes.
They're not.
They're not. That.
Yeah, that's like Jonathan's number one thing. If it doesn't hit reference, man,
I don't want
take it off the list, baby. It doesn't deserve to be there.
So how does it?
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead and finish your thought.
I will say right now, without even looking it up, that 9-inch subs are not going to get what you want unless they're basically mounted to the chair backs like my 8s are. Like sitting on the floor, it can't do it. And we've talked about that here before. I tried 10-inch and 12-inch right behind my chair. They're just not big enough driver cones to really do the near field experience. So you really need something like a 15 or an 18 to get that party started for near field, in my opinion, unless it's directly attached to the chair, and then it's a different story. You can probably go down. I tried 6.5s, and they provide plenty of feel when they're directly attached to the chair because it's all that shake is on the chair.
Yeah.
The problem with the 6.5s, in my opinion, was they were so small that the feel felt pinpointy. So, like, I liked the size of the 6.5s that I tried in the back of the chair, but I could tell, like, all right, there's two little small drivers hitting my back, and like I can feel their location. So that wasn't. 8 got rid of that feeling for me.
Yeah. So Aaron, he got the Blade 2 metas, and he loves them. And Aaron, as you know, he's all about measurements. He's all about data. I'm just curious how he's going to get that on his Clipple. So that'll be kind of interesting. But he's enjoying them.
Big Jack says Kef reference hits reference, and I don't think they do.
Not their rank and file. They might have some reference capable speakers. I don't know their full product line, but I've heard multiple Kef setups, and I haven't.
Like their
pretty blatantly, obviously not hitting reference.
The R line, I don't think they do. Like if I look at the reference 5 meta,
Mhm.
and we're going to come back to that
Mhm.
R9, they're 88 dB sensitive. I mean, they say they hit 116 at 1 meter.
116 would be reference capable.
But how do you do that with 400 watts?
Which one are you looking at, Ryan? What's the speaker you're looking at?
The reference 5.
Share your screen.
I haven't seen any of these tower calf things. I'm talking about more. Most people I know that I've experienced a calf, they're like little small bookshelf type setups, and that's the calves I've heard, and they're not even close to reference capable.
So there's that.
So which one's this one, Ryan?
This is the reference 5, so the R5 meta. So if you start at 88, and then let's say your main seating position for a lot of people is, I don't know.
It's got a 1-inch aluminum.
It doesn't do it. So
Good
here's the deal. Where do you say they are? 3.5 meters, probably 4 meters for a typical seating distance.
Yeah, that's about right.
So
12 foot is kind of 10 to 12 foot is kind of where I usually.
So let's say 4 meters, right? So you're at 1 meter, you're at 88. 2 meters, for every doubling of distance, you lose 6 dB. So 2 meters, you're at 82. And 4 meters, you're at 76. Okay, so now we've got to get all that back. And this is just raw numbers. We're not talking about room gain or anything here. So we're at 76. So 2 watts, we're at 79. 4 watts, we're at 82. 8 watts, we're at 85. 16, you're at 88. 32, you're at 91. 64 is 94. 128 is 97, 256 is 100, and 512 is 103. And you just, I don't know where they're getting this.
And you're over the.
You can do it like you can do it at 1 meter. Sure. A lot of speakers can do that. But
nobody's sitting 1 meter.
But when you start factoring in these distances, it just ain't going to happen. Especially when you start dealing with like EQ needs or the room and a bunch of other stuff. It's just take a look at the
KEF reference, because
this is reference. Like it's literally called the reference 5 meta. Unless there's another one that I'm talking.
Christian is saying KEF reference is a step above the R meta.
The reference. I hit the reference and it takes me to the meta. Is there a different one?
Christian, help us out, man.
I'm looking at the reference 5 meta, not the R11 meta or the R7, R5 meta. This is the reference 5 meta. That's what we just looked at.
Okay.
So if I go back in here,
I'm just checking.
If I go back in here and come down here to specs, this is this speaker. 88 dB sensitivity.
Okay.
And they say amplifier requirement 400. Maybe it can go above that. I don't know. Historically, and this is no knock against KEF. Martin Logan doesn't do this either. The speaker is just not designed to do that. That doesn't mean it's a bad speaker. It's not. I love Martin Logan's electrostatics. I think they're a phenomenal speaker. It just doesn't hit reference. That's all we're saying. We're not talking badly about it. It's a fantastic speaker. I think objectively designed, KEF is one of the best. I just don't think it's going to hit reference at your seating position without distorting or possibly blowing a driver.
Oh, look at there, Rusty. I just saw your little chat there, buddy. Rusty's uploading his YouTube channel.
See that, Jonathan? Godzilla -1 won an Oscar tonight for best visual effects in a movie.
I'm watching that at my friend Tim's house when he gets his theater done. He made me make that commitment. If he gets it done by June, I have to watch it at his theater. So
dude, I haven't watched it either. I am ready. I am so ready. But let's go back to that sub. Right? We were gonna do the sub.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it. I think it's this one. Yeah, this is it. So this is the sub. Can you guys see it?
Maximum output 110 dB. Get out of here. Get out of here.
And then
that's not even reference capable, and they don't even give a meter distance or anything.
What is this?
What?
That's okay. -3 at 11 hertz.
I understand that, but my point here is that they're saying at 11 hertz. What are they measuring that at? Like
probably in a closet,
75
in a corner
dB
is what they're doing.
in a bathroom.
You guys aren't right.
I mean, what are you getting at? This is all about marketing. And this, again, is no slap at Kef. All of the manufacturers do this. Everyone is guilty of this. But our thing here is, do not think that this sub is going to give you the same output as an 18.
But it's 1,000 watts, Ryan. 1,000 watts. It won't do it, guys. It just won't do it. Ryan's absolutely right, because it's saying right there to you, maximum output 110. They're not giving you any distance rating on that, and 115 is required for reference at your main listening position. So that's just not going to do it.
Nope.
And bass is important, fellas. None of us here run bass at neutral reference level anyway. We all want 6. I think Michael is at like 6+. That's your preference, or 4+, or where are you at?
Yeah,
and I'm 9+, and Ryan's more like 12 or 15+. so like we're not even wanting 115. You know, Michael's wanting 120. I'm wanting 123 or something, and Ryan's wanting 125. You just don't get that.
Now
you're running out of headroom.
Just to throw this out there, we're not accounting for room gain here, right? There's variables that we're not accounting for. So take this for what you will. Like when we're talking about the reference series, I mean, maybe if you throw it in a room, it will, but utilizing it just in an anechoic measurement, it's not going to get there.
And room gain varies room to room. So you better make sure you count on that by measuring versus just saying it will. We've talked about that before on the show here. Like I got a friend who has basically 18s like I do, and he has to cut at 20 hertz because he's got so much extra room gain. I have to boost my subs by 9 dB at 20 hertz to just make them flat. So, you know, that's going to vary based on placement and wall boundaries and concrete boundaries and all that kind of stuff, whether you're going to get how much room gain you're going to get.
So, like, while we're on the topic, Christian asks, does per listen R series hit reference? It does, but so does that the Kef, but it's at what distance are you trying to get that at, right? We're saying that the reference at a normal seating distance, taking into account EQ, given the specs that I see on the sheet, probably not. But that's not a knock against the speaker at all. I'm sure it's a phenomenal speaker. I like Kef. I mean, Aaron loves the Kef blade. It's just not what they're designed to do.
So Big Jack says the Kef reference 3160. I'm sorry, I'm cutting off Rusty's head. Let's pull that. There we go. Kef reference 3160 and 5160 has pretty much the same specs, but they're 91 sensitivity. Also, dB lost in room is closer to 4 dB. They're THX Ultra certified. I hate the subs though.
THX Ultra certified doesn't amount to very much, in my opinion and experience. Like it's probably better to have it than not have it because it means something, but it doesn't mean very much.
Well, we don't know what it means.
Yeah. I mean, I've had THX Ultra subs and they were stinky. I mean, I got Jamo D7 subs because of that THX rating, and they were worse than my Infinity HPS, and they blew up in the ear.
I'll be honest, I had a Eclipse 12-inch THX Ultra 2 sub, and I wasn't a big fan. That joker would bottom out.
That's more of a marketing thing in reality. I mean, maybe they cross some sort of threshold that's better than not having any kind of guarantee that they're good, but it's not what you'd expect.
Here's my thing. When the manufacturer will not tell you what it means, I have problems with it. And I've never been able to figure out what any of those THX ratings mean. Any of them from any of the manufacturers. Nobody will tell you.
Yeah.
Like it hits X volume at what distance, but what else does it mean?
I measured some Crystal Acoustic THX2 speakers that were ultra certified, and they wouldn't do reference, you know, what is it? What is the THX Ultra rating if it doesn't mean it'll do reference? That's what it's supposed to mean.
Is it like saying laptop speakers are Atmos capable?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I wish they would be more transparent on what it means, but then they can't then anyone could just say, "Hey, my speakers," and they don't get the revenue that the certification comes with and all that.
Dumb.
So
Anyway, you
So
got
what's their reasoning for not disclosing their criteria?
Yeah.
It's really just that. I mean, they make money on the certification, and it's black box. You're not allowed to talk about it. You ask a vendor like what it means, they won't tell you. They can't tell you by NDA type stuff. So
yeah.
Hulk thing asks, hello everyone. Any idea on SVS at MWAVE?
Sure enough, man. So they're actually confirmed. They'll be tag teaming again this year with NFM. They'll be in room 2208 at the show.
And then somebody else was asking about RBH.
Yeah, you can go to the website, midwestavexperience.com. And then right up here at the top, you can click on brands, and that'll take you to this page. And then you can click on any one of these pages to get more information about the brand that's in there. So some brands have let me know exactly what they're bringing. So if you go to JTR, you'll see the exact makes and models. Pretty sure where they at RBH.
There's a lot of brands that aren't on there yet.
Yeah, RBH has, they've given me specific models. So if they have shared with me, Michael,
they're bringing the big boys.
Yeah, they said if we're, they'll let me know I'm bringing this, then I definitely will update the website. But then some of them you may go to and like say, for instance, probably Martin Logan. I don't think they have told. Yeah, so it's kind of more just generic stuff I've just pulled off there. And honestly, I don't remember if that's probably from last year, right?
No, they didn't bring the 15A last year.
Okay, so actually, that is for this year. So that's the only thing I know that they're bringing. But
that'll be good because we've had the 40XW, which is the statement. And we've had the Neolith, and this is their masterpiece level below the Neolith. That'll be good.
Yeah. So certain ones have let me know exactly what they're bringing. Some haven't. They've been more kind of not cryptic, but like I don't know exactly what Stereo Integrity's bringing. I don't know which model row 1 are bringing. But as I find out, then I definitely update this page. So, but it's always current. And typically, if a brand messages me and says, "Hey, Michael, can you update this?" or "Hey, we know this," it's done that same day. So it's definitely current. So, but as Ryan mentioned, we've got some brands that are pending. We've got some brands like Cinemike. I don't have any information from them, but we know they're coming.
They're coming. It's coming.
I don't have any information from them. Christie, don't know exactly what they're bringing.
I think Christie is going to be. I can tell you what these guys are bringing.
Well, don't tell me. Just send me an email.
I know. I've told you, but the brands haven't specified. Like sent you an email. They've told me, but they haven't filled it out. So Christie's bringing, as far as I know, we can actually talk about this and argue about it a little bit real quick.
Yeah,
they're bringing the 860A, which is the 4K capable single chip DLP, which last time we talked about this kind of got poo-pooed on a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it only hits 96% of BT709.
Sure.
But when you think about this, and let's look at the NZ9 or as an example.
Yeah.
The NZ9 without the filter only hits like 87% of P3. So I don't think a lot of these projectors are as capable as people think they are in the color spaces. So just food for thought.
Also, though, Ryan, is there, and I don't know the answer to this because I'm not as well versed on the video side as I am on the audio side, but there's some question of how much difference in color can humans really perceive between Rec 709 and BT 2020? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know. I think everybody's going to be different, but there's just a little gray area here because the problem with these measurements is they give you a percentage, but you don't know what part of that space that percentage actually specifies. Like, is it equal between all of the colors?
Right. Or
is it only blue? Color? Because that's typically where a lot of projectors struggle is blue. And that's why you see a lot of these boosts. Is it in green? You don't know. So the percentages, like, what are they actually meaning behind that? And I mean, the audio companies do the same thing. It's marketing. I just want to make sure that people understand, like, don't poo-poo on it just because it says 96% of BT709. I think you may be surprised at what these other projectors are hitting if you actually measured how much of 709 or P3 they're actually doing. at a decent color value or luminance value without something like a filter or things like that. So
would that be something that you guys could test blind at MWAVE, like add it to the list where you have with like a Spears and Munsell thing? And I don't, maybe it has a Rec 709 version of something versus a BT 2020 version of something of the same clip recorded at different color spaces and see if people can tell the difference. That would be interesting.
We could probably do that. I'd have to think about what projectors or displays. It'd probably be better to do that on a TV. We could do that. That's actually a good one. I like that.
Ask Brian and FOMO.
Yeah,
if they could do something,
because that doesn't require a lot of setup, and I think it would be interesting for a lot of people so that they can wrap their head around like how important is BT 2020? What does it do? What am I gaining? And I think it's one of those things that it's important in some types of content and not as important in others. Like Spears and Munsell, they actually have some heat maps of where BT 2020 and 709 and P3 and all the other spaces are. And it's really interesting to look at certain images. There's none, and you would think there's some. And some images you think there's none, and there's tons. And some images there's not a lot, and it just kind of speckles and looks like pixels. But yeah, I think that would be really interesting for people. Is JTR going to MWAVE? Yes.
Yep.
And
again,
there was a question for why Arundel is not listed.
Yeah, man, I've been after Arundel. I'm like, hey guys, we need you there. I'd love to have you there. I'd love people because they ask us all the time, like, what do they sound like? Well, come to the show, let them hear it firsthand. So, but probably I mean, we've got Ascendo. I was about to say part of the problem is they're overseas.
You got Cinemike.
Ascendo's overseas, Cinemike. So,
Barco.
I'll keep working on them every year. I'm like, come on now, bring it on. So, but we'd love it.
You guys only have one room that's not spoken for, though, right? So
technically, there's other rooms that we could. There's the 3 across the hall that I could make available. But
if you look at the map right here, you can see 2215A, 2215B, and C. But as you can tell, they're like the size of 2 of the regular rooms, and a regular room is huge.
And they're not as good acoustically. I mean, I could make compromises for like the speaker and subwoofer room and the seminar room. Like I can compromise around some of that stuff for our vendors. It's
we'd rather
we want them to come. I mean, I'm all for them coming. I think it would be fantastic for them. Yeah. Like it's been for some of the other brands, and they've found out since they've come that it's not like other shows, and the ROI on this is a lot better.
Yeah, because the guys that are coming to MWAVE, I mean, like Rusty, I mean, he comes and he's like, all right, I'm buying some stuff, taking some stuff home with me. And then he brings a dang truck and brings stuff home for his buddies back home.
He's an enabler.
They're like, hey, are you going to MWAVE? Yeah. If I buy something, could you bring it back with you? Yeah, I love it.
I didn't. I was like, sure, I'm going to drive this year. No big deal. Thought I was bringing back a TV. Ended up bringing back like a 7.2 home theater. So
lots of stuff,
I didn't realize what I got myself into, but I'm happy to do it to support the local community. I may have to return Ryan's box truck for him though.
Drop Zone says, for me, it was sitting in my friend's. Oh, because we were asking, like, what's your favorite experience? For me, it was sitting in my finished room for the first time. I built it all myself and thought I would never finish it. At that point, as cool as the gear was secondary to pride that I felt. Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. Mid-bass, my father was not feeling well, and he was nearing the end of his life, and he asked me to recommend him a spoil myself type setup, and I recommended him the 4500H and 3 SB1000s at that moment. That's awesome. Man, I hate to hear the loss of your dad, though.
These are all from way earlier.
Yeah. Let's see. I switched from Dolly AXS. I'm not familiar with those. 8,000 towers to clips, heresies from 1976 as my left and right. Difference was massive. Leaning to go into all clips now. Pyro says my JTR RS1 is shipping next week, hopefully. What is the first movie I should watch on it? I'll
Godzilla.
Always got over 1,000 Blu-rays, 400 4Ks. Thinking Dune. Hadn't seen that.
He's paralyzed. He's got too many movies. You just do nothing but look through your titles when you get that many.
Narrow it down, man. Yeah. A lot of good demos, though. A lot of good movies. Lewis says, I want to say thank you for what you guys do. I listen to you almost every day. I'm in the process of building my dedicated home theater in my basement, and your channel has been a huge support. Appreciate it, brother. We're grateful that we get a chance to encourage you guys and help educate and help enable you to spend your money on fun toys and tools. And so Gary says, is there a DSP for 11 channels to manually EQ a room like we would with subs and mini DSP rather than use Odyssey?
Mini DSP has a processor, in fact, that you would be able to do anything you wanted with. I guess, Rusty, I haven't used a monoprice unit. Is their PEQ as capable and as granular as like mini DSP? You mentioned earlier that you have a lot of granularity with it. Like Denon and Marantz and off-the-shelf stuff have fixed EQ bands. You can't change them. I think you can with monoprice, if I remember reading that somewhere.
Yeah. It's really, you can do a lot. And if you wanted to just kind of see what it looks like, you can check out the interface online without actually having it and kind of run through it in demo mode. I'm trying to find a link for that real quick, but the PEQ options are very customizable. That's why, like, for example, if you're into BEQ, somebody has integrated the BEQ function and it uses the PEQ to accomplish that. So yeah, it's pretty, I'll find that link and share it to you, and you can kind of see what all it does.
Let's go back here. Rick says, can I only put one JTR RS1 sub per 20 amp circuit? If I have 4 subs and the rack would be 520 amp dedicated circuits enough. I have 2 RS2s and the rest of my theater room other than my projector on a single 20 amp circuit. So 2 RS1s would be no problem on a 20 amp. But if you had 4 subs, yeah, you're still the same, because I've got technically 4 RS1s in my room on a single 20 with all my, like, my 11 channel amplifier, PS5, everything in my rack or in my cabinet, apart from my lighting that's on a separate circuit and the projector's on a separate circuit because it's outside the room. WA, can you get tight bass out of a sub this large?
He's talking about the 50.
Sloppy. Okay. Sloppy. Yeah, so that's a great question, man.
Shut up, Jonathan.
Honestly, what did he say?
I told him to shut up. He said it was sloppy.
Oh, yeah. So, all right, true full transparency. When we walked into Atlanta Home Theater, and I walked into the room, and I see this big monstrous 50-inch sub, and I knew it was going to be there. My initial thought was that this is like, why? You know what I mean? Like, who needs a stinking 50-inch sub? This is going to be, it's more marketing and hype, and just because it's big. I was pretty shocked. It's an awesome sub for sure. I was not expecting that. And we were playing, people were, giving him requests. It wasn't a great room, no acoustic treatment whatsoever. So I think the thought of tight or sloppy or slow bass, a lot of that is myth. Now, are certain subs, do they
perpetuate that myth?
Are they cleaner? Yeah, I think some have way less distortion than the others. But Jonathan shared on the podcast, if you think about this logically, hertz frequency is in reference to how many
cycles per second.
Cycles, right? So if you slow that down, guess what? It's no longer the same hertz. You've changed
a lower frequency. Yeah.
And it's not going to do that. So, any other thoughts on that, fellas?
Yeah, that's a myth, and I think it comes from when they mismatch the cheapest of cheapest drivers. They use wrong port tunes, or they use a box that's way too big, and the driver doesn't have a big enough motor structure, and it overhangs. Basically, it doesn't center correctly because it's a cheap driver. It wasn't engineered correctly, and it's like a $30 Walmart subwoofer, and then that lends itself into people's brain, and they think that applies to something that's well engineered, like these Ascendo drivers that Ryan's getting. That thing won't be sloppy in the slightest little bit. It'll have very low distortion. It'll be very clean. It'll barely move.
Hope it doesn't suck.
Yeah. Yeah, hope it doesn't suck. I had to get up to it. I'm like, is that thing even on?
Right.
I mean, it barely has to move to pressurize the whole stinking room. So there's no distortion. JR says, what will be the cheapest component in your new home theater? The carpet?
Cables.
Oh, you don't even have carpet. That's gonna be expensive too.
The floor and the cables.
It's not the floor. Probably the cables.
Probably your Synology that took a dump.
Yeah, it's probably the cables. Or the Roku.
There you go.
Apple
Roku?
TV, maybe.
Yeah.
No, the Apple TV's in there. It's just the Roku's cheaper.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I just have multiple sources because of troubleshooting for MadVR. So I
know it's
most of
cheaper
them.
than that. Well, no, I guess they're probably about the same.
What?
No, it's probably more. Your Google, whatever little device.
The hub?
Oh, the audio. What did they call those?
I don't know. I've
I
got
don't
that
even remember.
in front of me.
Not the it's
Chromecast?
A Chromecast, but it's just audio. I don't remember what they called them.
Probably Chromecast audio.
Yeah, maybe. It's just a little puck. I don't even make them anymore, but that's fantastic because it's digital.
That's what it's called. Chromecast audio media streamer.
Yeah, maybe that.
Oh, what about the coat hanger speaker wire? That's pretty cheap.
Yeah, didn't run that. I didn't run anything fancy, but not that.
Let's keep going. We're going to wrap this up in 4 minutes. Will says, hey guys, are any of the 100-inch TVs confirmed for FOMO in Brian's room? Looking forward to MWAVE. So I continually ask FOMO, hey, give me some updates. I'd love to create a page on MWAVE on our website that kind of shows what they're going to be doing in the TV. And I think, are they doing projectors in there too, Ryan?
Mm.
Okay, so TVs and projectors. But I don't have I can't 100% confirm that, but I think their desire is to at least get like the 98s or the 100s, something of that size. And
there is companies that want to do it. They're just trying to get confirmation.
Yeah. Sometimes it's logistics. There's so many shows that they've only got so many products available for shows. So, but yeah, we're definitely working on that. Nick says, will any more companies have full Atmos rooms at MWAVE this year, like SVS, JTR, Perlison did last year? All three of those were great. So looking back at the room list here. So Ryan, out of these full Dolby Atmos setup, so we'll have one from JTR.
Mm-hmm.
One
RBH.
from Ascendo.
Not
right?
that one though.
Oh, this one won't. Okay, but so RBH, there's 2.
3.
SVS will be 3. Possibly this one.
Yeah.
Martin Logan, I haven't confirmed. I'd love for them to do like the F200 series.
Yeah.
I would love to see that as a full Dolby Atmos.
I can imagine we'll probably do what we're doing at Expona. Would be my guess. It's multi-channel music.
Okay. That would be super cool.
Yeah. HSU never got back with you?
No, I've talked to Dr. Shu and he hasn't confirmed with me yet.
Another one that would be fun would be Seat and Sound.
Sorry, Rusty. I hate it when I go to this share screen and Rusty like disappears down there.
No, it's all right.
The text overlay.
If you guys are looking for another vendor, you might reach out to Mark Seaton of Seaton Sound. He's a great asset.
I would love to have Mark out there, dude. He's a great dude.
Catalyst speakers and F18 subwoofers and submersive subwoofers. That's all good products.
You got a connection with him, right?
I do. I'm friends with him. I'll ask him.
Yeah, just text him. So yo, Mark.
And he's really good. He's like best buddies with Jeff of JTR. Like they aspired into their own audio companies together and started work together in the audio industry, and they're both good buddies.
Yeah, Mark, I had a chance to meet him personally for the first time at Scott Newby's event. So Bass brings us together. So he was there, Jeff was there, and then I found out they were good friends. I was like, this is cool, man. So yeah, Mark's got some. I heard, oh man, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he had 3 Seaton. First time I'd ever heard his Seaton speakers.
The Catalyst 12C or 8C.
They were big, tall ones.
Probably 12C.
They were huge. What's his name? Doug? Not Doug. He had a Christie, an older Christie. Now he has a Christie, I think Griffin. And I've done so many home theater tours. Y'all don't remember that one?
No.
Oh my goodness.
The only person I know that has Catalyst speakers is Alex Penny Nike 1, but I don't think you've been to his house yet.
I haven't been to.
And he's changed out since then. I think he has synthesis now instead of Catalyst. Like I think he did a full synthesis theater. Yeah,
I did a home theater tour with him. I cannot believe I'm drawing a blank. But I did a YouTube short on it. And basically the short was I moved into a new home or something like that. And I did this little room tour, like a real short, like 1-minute room tour. Scrolling back through my shorts real quick, see if I can find it. But he's got a killer setup, big room, really big room. He had a Christie projector. I can't not remember his name though. Where is that? There it is, my new home theater. I'll show you real quick. So this was like a, let me stop sharing. Boom. Right here, there we go. I'll just mute it. He had a 224-inch diagonal screen. Massive. That was a Christie projector, older Christie projector, but he's got a new one now. I had I think those are JTR, probably the RS2s. Had
near
2 of
field.
those.
Nice.
Near fields. Had a bunch of seating. Those were PS audio, I think. Yeah, PS audio all around the surrounds. I don't think you'll be able to see it, but I did a tour of his room. Look how big that joker is. Massive screen. But behind that screen were 3 of Seaton audio towers. Man, they sounded phenomenal. So I would love to have Mark bring a setup out there. All right. Last 3. Nicholas, if Michael isn't using Mini DSP anymore, what's he using to tune his RS2s? So lately, I had probably the last time when Tony was here and we were installing my whole setup, we were trying to just simplify my setup because I review so many things. I'm constantly unhooking, plugging stuff back in. So currently right now, the Mini DSP is just not in the equation. And so it's just being calibrated with Odyssey and then, taking some measurements with REW. So, but it's not any, I don't have like a bunch of PEQs and everything like I did before. So I probably don't have, I haven't even measured it lately, but I probably don't have as flat a frequency response as I had with the Mini DSP because you got a lot more control over that. We already did that one, right? Yep. And then last one for tonight, will there be any DOT at MWAVE?
Like Alexa Dot?
I don't know what a DOT is, so I'm not sure. What is
Department of Transportation?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I got sidetracked. It was Steve. Yes, Man, incredible room. I'm not putting up a photo of me with a mustache. I did have a mustache when I got married, though. Jessica hated it. She almost didn't date me because I had a mustache. So, Jonathan, I see you're all clean shaven now, man.
No, it's still there. It's just shorter.
Oh, is it real small?
Yeah.
Real thin? All right. Yes, I don't know what DOT. Art Salmorn has at least seat and subs. Yeah, Art's got an incredible. I think he was the first person to get a Christie Eclipse in a home, right?
Took out half of his wall to get it in there. It was amazing.
Wild. Yeah. He invited me to his event. I just had other stuff going on. I couldn't make it out there. What Atmos is Michael running? So I'm using I got a dedicated video on it. It's all 110 HT SLs. So it's a slanted version. It's a 10-inch coaxial driver from JTR. So I've got 4 as my bed layer for surrounds. I've got 4 Atmos speakers. Yeah, Mark's got great acoustic room knowledge as well. Sweet, man. All right. Well, I think we got through all the questions. So that is good. Rusty, we're excited, brother. You're going to be a huge asset to MWAVE, no doubt. And appreciate your friendship over the past couple of years.
Likewise. And I'm excited to be part of the team, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody and putting on a great show. It's I think even more, we need more volunteers. So if you've volunteered in past years, you'll probably get an email from me soon. If you want to volunteer again this year, please go to the website and sign up. We need all the help we can get because it gets bigger and better every year. So
one thing that's kind of cool about the volunteer is you get a chance to hang out with the brands that you love. You know, you're helping set up pipe and drape in their rooms and helping them bring in their projectors. And, you know, of course, they're doing all the calibration and stuff and probably a lot of the physical connections, but you get to hang out with the, the Ascendo guys. You get to hang out with the SVS guys and get to know them on a personal level, which I think is pretty cool. So you kind of get the backstage pass to MWAVE. So is Russell always in the podcast now, or was he a guest? I don't know. We'll have to find out.
You gotta leave a cliffhanger.
3 hours long. He's probably like,
He's like, nope, this is a one and done, baby.
So a friend of mine texted me and said, I missed the first hour and I'll try to catch it later. I now know what my wife feels like when I start talking about AV. So.
Exactly. For sure, man.
I could do this all night long. I think Ryan wants to do a 24-hour live stream on Twitch.
I'd rather die.
we can just go 24 hours straight home theater.
Yeah.
You're going to watch me sleep, which if you're okay with that,
we can do this in shifts.
Yeah. So Rusty, you should have Mike Stevens in that list. So
I think I do. Yeah, I have all the contacts that you forwarded to me, and I'll be reaching out to all those people this week. So if you don't hear from me, make another run at it.
Super cool, man.
But thank you very much for having me on the podcast. I really enjoyed it. This is a lot of fun. I love hanging out with you guys, and it's just a good time. So I'd love to join you again if it ever works out.
It'll work out as often as you want it to.
Great.
Jonathan, always a pleasure, man.
Yeah.
Glad you're feeling better. All the rest of the family good too?
Yeah, finally.
Perfect. Yeah, we're finally getting over this crap too, man. My son today, we were celebrating his 25th birthday, and his voice was kind of getting hoarse. I'm like, oh gosh, man. It's like everybody's been dealing with it. So Ryan, you got a big day, big week this coming up week. Heading to Texas, bring back all your Ascendo stuff. So excited for you, brother. Man, I would have loved to have gone, man, but oh my gosh, I'm trying to catch up on all the stuff I've even got.
Stuff to do.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we will check y'all in the next stream. Hope y'all have an incredible week. Take care.
See ya.
I guess.